The Click R3 podcast is brought to you by the awesome community over on Patreon. To learn more about supporting the show, head over to spawncastnetwork.com. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Click R3 episode number 6, a PlayStation podcast. Yeah, I actually feel good, Ryan. Like I have a game that I'm playing now that I'm really happy with. I got a game coming up that I'm really excited about.
Yes.
Things are moving right now. I feel good. I feel very positive, actually, right? Even though there's some stuff we're going to go over that's not very positive. I'm feeling positive. I am. Of course,
video games are happening.
Mystic Ryan. Ryan, good to be here. How we doing?
Good to be here. You know what I'm noticing, John? Every time this camera, right? I'm always out of my background is more in focus than I am because of this blue eyes white dragon.
I see that. And then you have the front of the Grand Theft Auto box right there with the girl. If that ever comes into focus, the camera's like, what's going on over there? What is that?
Yeah, I gotta get this thing set. It keeps focusing on the dragon in the back, and I'm always out of focus. Maybe
is
that's
this
better.
Is this like a what webcam is that?
It's that Elgato 4K face cam thing.
Oh, okay.
It does the job. I don't think it looks great, but.
Do you typically film from that? I usually have a whole other setup for Let's Talk PlayStation and stuff, don't you?
No, yeah, I just use a DSLR for like anything that like, is actually a video. If it's like a live stream or something, I just fire this thing up.
Got to get you set up with the Elgato 4K, the cam that lets you plug in a DSLR to it, and then you just set up with like a basic Sony or a basic one of those basic Panasonic ones that are cheaper. Just that's your webcam. Those work well.
I've got that, but I don't know what the problem is, but the handshake between like the cables and then the post processing because I use a Mac, the picture quality does not come out good. Like the viewfinder, and even like if I see it in my software, the screen looks great, but the actual post processing, once it starts like spitting out files, it does not look even close to what it should look like. I don't know what the problem is.
Interesting. Okay. I'll say you've gone through a couple Macs too since you've had that, haven't you? So it's been like multiple Macs that happens. I feel like you got like a studio or a mini or whatever the block that you get now that you put down the desktop version.
I had an iMac Pro before, and then when Apple stopped doing that, then I did the studio. But I've tried it on both, and I don't know what the issue is. So
interesting.
The 4K face cam does the job for now, and then DSLR for anything else.
Yeah.
But what have you been playing?
Oh, this is a big topic, I assume, because it took over the internet this week. I've been fully immersed in Black Myth Wukong. I mean, I got it thinking I was going to enjoy it because I like the Dragon Ball stuff. I enjoy that quite a bit, and that's based on Journey to the West. This is like really in the Journey to the West. Like they have the different character, like the different obviously depictions of these the entire tale and stuff. I understand the story, very popular obviously in the East, but it's kind of shown it in a way that I haven't necessarily experienced it, since you hear about some of the stuff and the influences it has on, for most of us, it's like the anime or stuff we grew up with. We're like, oh yeah, that was based on Journey to the West. This is like straight up like, okay, here's all the stuff that was going on in Journey to the West, and it's kind of at times their adaptation of it, so it is also influenced and not from what I can tell, an exact story of it necessarily, but it still very much depicts the vast majority. But the game itself, I am finding to be very enjoyable from perspective of someone who did spend quite a bit of time in Elden Ring Shadow of the Erd Tree, just a month or two ago, and I go from that to a few other games, but then really went into this one. I wasn't sure what to expect with it because people were saying it was basically like a boss rush game, where you just go from boss to boss to boss. And that's somewhat true, but I find myself actually exploring quite a bit in this game because it is linear. You start one chapter, you end the chapter, you go on to the next chapter. Usually they're kind of broken up into biomes. So the first one's sort of like this jungle area, and then you go to a desert, for example. So they do change things quite a bit there. But you fight, I would call them more mini bosses or even a step below mini bosses. And there are times where you run across like big bosses, but it's not as frequent as is kind of originally talked about. So you have mini bosses that you feel a bit more equal to right away. And I think the difficulty curve for it is it's definitely more approachable than a Souls game. It's not as hard as Elden Ring or Dark Souls or Demon Souls. So if people are put off by those, I think this is a nice game to get into, maybe even get you a little acclimated to it, because they still have like the stamina bar that's very forgiving. They do have, oh yeah, you rest here, all the enemies on the map respawn kind of thing. You can farm for experience and build up your stat tree that will add to passives, or build up your stances, different staff stances depending on what you want to do. You can have a smash, or you can jump up on top and treat it like a stilt, which is cool. You have the power pole extend, so you back up, parry, and then you'll have your entire staff grow like 3 lengths and hit the person in the face with it. It's really cool when you start getting experience and then levels and then stat points. Your character starts to feel very capable against all these different enemies, and it is very rewarding. Also very creative with some of these bosses, which again, I know it's coming from Journey to the West, but it is depicted in a way where it looks really cool on screen at times.
It sort of reminds me of God of War in a sense, where it was always like a fun thing to see how their interpretation of certain mythological, deities and things like that. So
Mhm.
it's a very, I've seen little clips here and there. I try to not see too much of it because it's a game I'd like to get to at some point, but the way you're describing it certainly is what I was expecting out of it. Now, doesn't it have difficulty modes too? Like that was the big thing, right? This certainly is something it's not like the perception of it was, oh, it's Souls like, but it's not at all
I
Souls
mean,
like in that.
I
It's
didn't see any option for
yeah.
easy, medium, hard. It's just they have one difficulty and that's it.
Oh, I thought there was. Maybe I'm thinking of something else. I might be thinking of
I
like
mean, I
Phantom
didn't see
Blade
it. I
Zero.
did look around the options a little bit. I will admit I didn't go looking for it. But
Mm.
I don't think there is. I think it's just this is the difficulty they have set and that's it. So actually, in that regard, it kind of is Souls like there. But
Oh,
uh, I haven't felt so. I don't think this is as hard as any of the Souls games I've played. Some of the Souls games, Shadow of the Earth Tree. There are people who legitimately put the game down and they're not going back because they can't beat the final boss. And I will say the final boss, I like it was over the course of 2 days that I finally beat it. So it took a bit. But this one, there are some bosses I've come across. I've beaten them first try without too much issue. So there's a lot of forgiveness when it comes to evading these enemies and healing yourself. Like the dodge, you only can dodge. You can't block whenever you want. There is an ability you get that lets you turn to stone basically, and it'll parry and you'll be able to stop them. But it's not a consistent thing where I press a button and I'll put my staff up to block. The idea is you dodge. That's it. By the way, they have a really, so, obviously you're familiar with Dragon Ball
yeah.
Z and stuff. You know how you have like, they do the after image technique where
Mhm.
they move and they move so fast, they leave like an illusion of them behind. You do that in this game too.
That's
So
cool. Yeah.
when you perfect dodge, you leave a ghost version of yourself behind you. It looks really cool.
That's pretty sick. I like how
Yeah.
that's a comparison I've seen a lot is Dragon Ball Z.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm
It's,
probably
it's
I'm,
good.
I'm probably thinking of Phantom Blade Zero. I think that's the one where it's like it's confirmed that has like difficulty settings
Mhm.
and it's like a way more approachable.
I
But
think so. I was literally just playing right before this.
now you're playing on PlayStation 5, so that goes into
Mhm.
a story related here, which right before the game came out, it was pretty well publicized. No PS5 review codes were getting sent out there, so there was some concern about the PlayStation 5 version. And now that the game is out, we are seeing that it's, well, you could maybe talk more on this than I could, but apparently it's pretty unstable. So how's the game holding up right now in that regard?
It's not to the point where I can't play. Obviously, I'm playing it now. I'm working through chapter 5. There's 6 chapters in the game apparently, so I'm through chapter 5 just about now. So I'm coming up to the end of the game at about 25 hours in right now, and it hasn't felt like it's gotten in the way, but it is very noticeable. Like frame rate is okay early on, but when you start getting to some of the bigger bosses that have elemental effects, like so for example, when fire is thrown around in a boss battle and you swing the camera, you can kind of see it's like, okay, yeah, this is stuttering a bit. It's having a hard time keeping up. And then they also use, to get performance, you have fidelity, balance, performance, and I think fidelity is like 30 frames per second. They'll turn on ray tracing. Balanced is like that in between 40 to 45 frames mode. And then performance is just, we're going to try for 60 and we're going to do every compromise we can to get there. And I think part of that is frame generation, to my understanding, with Unreal Engine 5. And that combination, it does some weird things to where it's kind of strange. Around the edge of the screen, I can almost see like, I don't know, screen tearing or something is happening there. And apparently the inputs are rated at like 30 frames per second, but you're seeing a 60 frames per second image, or you're seeing that in motion, 60 frames, but it's actually 30 for the input. So it's a little strange. I've gotten used to it, and I've been able to, for the most part, beat obviously all the bosses and stuff. I feel like I would do better on PC, and if I could go back in time, knowing all of this, I probably would have got on PC. But I will tell you, this is a game that I will revisit when this fabled PlayStation 5 Pro hits in a few months. This is one of the games that I will immediately go to, and I'm hoping they have something lined up for it. PlayStation 5 enhanced. I know Sony apparently is trying to get developers on board with it with a little tag, and I'm sure Black Myth Wukong would be an awesome one to put next to it, because if you've seen it on PC, it looks incredible. Like it is, like in terms of fidelity, this looks like that next gen quote unquote experience people have been asking for.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. It's, I'd be curious to see what the game does if let's say it doesn't get a PS5 Pro enhancement. That console, in theory, should still have a sort of retroactive boost setting you can toggle. So I'm curious to see if, a game that's unpatched properly like Wukong, if there would be any sort of maybe meaningful benefit if the game is rather unstable. You're playing on performance, right? So not the
Yep.
balance mode. Because
Right.
I believe the concern there is like, why did they not put the game in a 120 hertz container and maybe try to just target a 40 FPS mode for that balance mode? Which it feels like there's just not enough studios really playing around with that. I feel like
Yeah, I
that's
don't
a
really know why they wouldn't do that. It does
pretty
seem,
good
you're right.
compromise.
Sony first party's done that for a number of titles now.
Yeah, it seems like a very good compromise. I wish that was an option with Rift Apart when the game initially came out, because I probably would have played it like that, because I played on fidelity with that game.
Oh,
Yeah, but it's a John's dying.
that 30, but I'm telling you, dude, when I did the video on Black Myth Wukong when it dropped. I was like, I'm going to play it anyway. I'll just record the gameplay and I'll just speak over it from time to time, because people are curious how it looks on the PS5. And I
Yeah.
went from fidelity to performance back, and it looks like I was underwater. It looked better, but like the movement was just, it wasn't great.
It depends on the game though, John. Like Ratchet's like it's a platformer. And also that game is just so goddamn gorgeous. Like to me, the trade off really was like a totally like I can handle this kind of thing. But I also go back to like a lot of very unstable 30 FPS games on consoles all the damn time. So I don't know. It's for me, it's highly dependent. Like Demon Souls, there was no way I could not do the 30 FPS mode on that
I thought the
game.
game
No,
this
no
game
way.
still looked really good on at 60 frames though.
But I noticed like with
Mhm.
Ratchet, like if you play on the performance setting, like it's noticeably blurry, where I'm like, this kind of doesn't look right for what is a very bright, colorful Pixar style game. Point being, I wish I had the 40 FPS mode, because that's an amazing
Right.
compromise. So in that sense, I'm curious if a pro would retroactively, clean this game up a little bit. Now, what we can say though is that this game did also boost console sales, notably in China, considering that's where a lot of the player base is for this game. I don't know if you saw that one report it was an analysis from Nico Partners. So PS5 is apparently selling 2 times faster than PS4 in China, which for context, that's when the console ban was lifted in China back in 2014. So I believe they're basing this off like a launch aligned timeline here, which that's actually not a whole lot, but consoles are also like very niche in China.
I saw
So
the story. Did you see the story where there was PlayStation's official store sold out of PS5s? I saw the headlines like, whoa, okay, good stuff. And I look, it's like, yeah, they sold 6 systems. I was like, oh.
Yeah, it's like it's not a lot, but I guess it's more illustrative of, I guess, the very
Oh, they're
small.
probably in there ringing the sales bell and like, 6 console is probably a big deal, because I just don't. I mean, I still think the idea of even of concept of a console still working its way into that market to the degree that we see with PC and mobile, right? Where that obviously it's big there. But Black Myth Wukong obviously is a big driver right now in China for these consoles.
Well, the other interesting thing is that we would probably need to like really ask somebody else that would be more privy to this information. But like this kind of goes back to like 2021, 2022, which was a lot of reports coming out of Japan that those consoles were getting scalped in Japan, not because they were being resold to Japanese customers, but they were getting shipped overseas to China, because those Chinese PlayStation 5 consoles have a separate, more restricted storefront. So I'm curious as to how prevalent that still is. Maybe that's where a lot of consoles are, getting bought up in China because they're actually just getting imported in. So maybe there's a certain a number of Chinese console players that are sort of unaccounted for to a degree. If we're just basing,
I'm sure there are. Yeah, I'm sure there are plenty. Yeah,
yeah. There's nothing I'm really saying here outside of I'm curious if what that looks like nowadays in 2024.
But still, I mean, this is big just for the China game development in general. I mean, a breakout like this that's gonna catch eyes of a lot of investors, I feel like, into some of these different studios coming out of China. And I mean, just showing how strong that market is. If you do hit a home run like this, you saw the sales numbers. I mean, we're talking 10 million copies in 3 days.
That's the crazy number. I feel like that surprised a lot of people. Like, were you expecting 10 mil?
I saw some of those concurrent player count numbers, and I was like, "Oh, how many have they sold?" Because we always look at concurrent player count, and they're like, "Oh, that's how many they sold." No, that's just because people are cycling in and out constantly of that number, right? So usually it is many times more than what you're seeing there at any given time. So in my mind, I was like, "Is this thing over 5 million? Is over 6 million?" And there's also PS5. So 10 million didn't cross my mind in 3 days, but I was thinking like, oh wow, this might be like a 6 or 7 million seller already. 10 million though, that's rare. That's rare category for any game. Because there were some comparisons drawn. That's faster to 10 million than Elden Ring, faster than Hogwarts Legacy. I mean, that's the big IP there, obviously, with Harry Potter. Faster or same. I'll even say faster, though. Same as Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, which is the fastest selling Pokemon game in the franchise. But that's 2 SKUs. There are people who buy both copies and kind of inflate the numbers a little bit. This is digital only, M-rated game, new IP. Based on, yes, Journey to the West, but still new IP. That's impressive stuff.
That's big. Yeah, I wasn't expecting 10, but I wonder what the split actually is, though. PS5's got to be not like a lot of games we've seen. It's like, oh, maybe 60-40, maybe up to 70-30. This one's got to be like 85-15.
They shared information on concurrent player count, like the height, like the most they hit. It was 3 million.
They did do that, yeah.
So I mean, we can just look at the number. Okay, let's just say the height was on Steam is 2.4. Well, let's just say that was the height across the board. 600,000 on PS5 then to reach that number. So
you're right.
Okay,
I forgot that.
That's 1/5 then. So there you go. That's
I guess that's
80-20.
higher than I thought it would be.
Yeah, but again, I mean, in terms of the market, it does appear that the vast majority, yes, is technically in the East, specifically coming out of China. Daniel Med had a very good write-up on this, even tracking bandwidth, and like 85% of it on Steam was coming out of China. Yeah. So I mean, hey, it's to me, a sale's a sale. I don't really know why people were like making a big deal about where they were coming from. It's like, I mean, they sold a copy. What does it matter?
Yeah. And too, remember when the first trailer for that game came out and that went super viral?
Yep.
So I feel like
it looked really impressive.
Yeah, people have not forgotten about that. So congrats to Game Science. They're obviously doing quite well.
It didn't. I'm curious. It didn't rate on Metacritic specifically. It didn't rate at like top tier level. It's like an 81 or an 82 or something right now, something like that. And I do wonder if the sales of a game like this and the amount of people who experience it versus others pushes it up a few notches when we get to Game of the Year voting and nominations.
Well, you would think it's still primarily based on pure quality, right?
Yeah, I mean the game feels high quality. I can feel I will say it feels a little janky at time with the camera, but Elden Ring was the same thing. So was Shadow of the Erd Tree, and that got like resounding Game of the Year nominations and wins. I do think this game is probably going to get some Game of the Year nods from different places. I'm just curious. This is such a breakout story right now in terms of interest and sales and discourse, we'll say, online, that it feels like something that will be there at the end of the year in consideration. And that's also kind of I don't want to say a weak year, but in terms of those big 90 plus Metacritic score games, a little bit of a down year there. So maybe it is that situation of where it can kind of sneak in as a 5th or 6th slot even if we have some really good games to close out the year.
Yeah, no, I think that's realistic. And the game's close, and we're like a little over midway through the year. There's the recency bias, I guess, is what I'm trying to get across here. So it's recent enough to where I think it's going to be in people's minds by the time we get to that conversation for game of the year.
When are you going to be playing this, Ryan?
When
are you going to be playing this? When are you starting it up?
When they make an actual disc.
Oh,
which is not an option right now.
No, it's not. It's not. Again, 2-disc set. Come on, make it happen. 1 install disc, 1 like game install disc. Come on, they should do it. They got to immortalize this thing.
I'm seeing everyone have their fun. I'm watching from the outside, so I'm just kind of waiting patiently. It's kind of like Alan Wake 2 or Baldur's Gate 3. I'm like, okay, I see you all, having fun in your yards. We're still got to mow our lawn and get our ducks in order here before I can start playing the game. But eventually.
Yeah, I just want to say I'm curious to see people's takes on this game, especially if you're not like really, really big Souls person. I take it like really like I see people who are super into Souls games. You play Demon Souls, obviously. I wasn't sure if you were like really into that sector for any of the other games.
I like them a lot. My problem is like the reason why I haven't started Elden Ring, which is like the big one. It's like, dude, if I start that game, it's over for me. Like I gotta put everything down. I don't want to work. I don't want to make videos. I don't want to do anything. I just want to play that game. And it's going to be like 100+ hour title for me, at least.
Yeah, it was about 100 hours for me with that and Urge Free mixed in. Like two together is about 100 hours.
Yeah, John, it kills me. I want to start it so bad. So
this game you could be done in 30 hours.
And that's the exciting prospect to me. So whenever they make that disc, I will probably be there.
Man.
As long as it's a disc. All right, let's move on to some other news stories here. PlayStation Plus. So we have the extra and premium lineup, the August lineup, which is now live on PSN. We got The Witcher 3, Wild Hunt, Wild Hearts, Cult of the Lamb, Ride 5, Naruto to Boruto, Shinobi Striker, Watch Dogs 2. And John, I don't know if you like Sword Art Online, but there's a lot of Sword Art Online.
A lot of Sword Art going on.
Yeah. So we've got Lost Recollection, Alicization, Licorice, Fatal Bullet, Hollow Realization. I probably butchered a lot of those. Those are on extra. On premium, we have Vacation Simulator, PSVR 2. So still a trend where we're getting PSVR 2 games on premium so far.
At least they're dropping it in.
At least they're dropping it. Yeah. You know what? I'm actually pumped for Vacation Simulator. I have not had the chance to get to that one just yet. And then really surprising thing here, I don't think any of us saw this coming. Not just Time Splitters, Time Splitters 1, 2, and Future Perfect. Just drop the franchise right in there, all in one go. Love it.
There it is.
That's great. That's awesome.
That is a good addition. There's 3. I just recommend people just go to Future Perfect. Probably Future. Yeah, that's what I would go. The third one technically there. Right. I mean, look, the first one doesn't. They really didn't have a great. Because this is going to be mostly based around campaign play. Let's be real. I mean, you can play with bots and stuff in multiplayer or with friends, couch co-op and stuff, or deathmatch. But most people are going to experience from the single player side. I would say the Future had the best single player out of them.
I thought 2 was like, from what I remember, 2 was not bad either. Like a lot of people.
No, it wasn't bad, but Future was like they really came together for him there. I just played 2 at a friend's house all the time on the PS2, obviously at that time, and it was just multiplayer, just deathmatch all the time. So that's all. That's what I mostly remember of that. But that good addition to I like it. I like the PS2 push here.
I'm borderline shocked. I'm like, oh my God, just all 3 right off rip, all 3. Like, God, I wish they keep doing that, but I right. Hold on.
Now the expectations are up. Now they got to meet that again.
It's just like, if it's going to be like only 3-4 games every month, I just think it's great to have like, here's the whole set, boom, done. So, but anyway, we had that. And then also Sword Art Online Lost Song, which is
finally
that's like the remaster category. So it's like a classic, but not really.
Which one did you have to stream? One of them you had to just stream. Like they didn't have it as like a game you could play natively.
Oh, what, Sword Art Online?
Yeah, one of them was just
Oh,
like, you can only stream this. I assume it was. I was like, is this just the PS3 version, even though there's a PS4 version out there?
this one's PS4, but I guess are you referring to like when it was available on PS Now or something back in the day?
No, I mean, like, it was in the. I thought it was in the PlayStation blog. I looked at it and was like, that's weird. Why does it say you have
It
to stream this thing? They put
it
stars
sh-
next to it and everything.
it should be a PS4 remaster, unless I overlooked
That's
something.
that's what I thought. And
Yeah.
unless I read it wrong, it's always possible. Can't count myself out on that.
Well, either way, that's 5 games for premium, so not bad. Um, what I will say about time splitters, and I don't, well, this is one of those weird things where it's like a hair
Mhm.
splitting moment, but this kind of stuff drives me, I guess nuts, but like I've never seen this happen before. So time splitters on PSN, the way they've treated this game is that it's like baked into a single package on PSN. It will have 3 separate listings on PlayStation Plus in the PS Plus category. So you can
Mhm.
like a la carte download, say 2 and not 1 or Future Perfect or whatever. But by the time the game is in your library, any of the games, in your library, it's treated as just time splitters as a franchise. Then you click into that game and then it shows the 6 separate versions, which would be PS4 and PS5 versions of all 3 games. And it doesn't single them out individually. It's I guess it's hard to describe this if you're not actually seeing like the footage of like what the games look like on your console, but it's very weird. I've never seen them package the games like that before. Typically they'll do this with game bundles or something on PSN where they'll have a separate store listing if you want to buy like 2 games for one price or something, but it's
Mhm.
very strange how they've packaged these games on PSN, and I'm not entirely sure why they've decided to do that.
Yeah, I saw you mention that. I'm not really sure what that's about either. Like, it's very
Yeah.
weird how inconsistent it is, unless that's just how they're gonna handle some of them as almost like these containers. I don't know what that's about. I don't
It's
almost
like a franchise container, because even like if you look at the games installed on the home screen, they use the same like metadata images for all 3 games. Like they don't change it. It just says time splitters and then the same background picture for all 3 games. It's a very weird thing how they spat it out and how it's listed on the store. Because if you search for the games as well, it'll it you're it'll return results for just one tile, time splitters. Doesn't matter if
Mhm.
you search 2 or Future Perfect, it spits out one tile, and then you have to click that game and then click further in from the dot 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 menu to select the particular time splitters game you want. But if it's from PS Plus, they'll list them separately.
Okay, I thought I was going crazy, and I double checked the PlayStation blog thing with Sword Art Online Lost Song. They edited that blog post because people have screenshots of it when it first went up 11 days ago,
Oh,
and it had
really?
3 stars next to it, like a little asterisk at the top. And people were commenting, like, that's a strange thing that Lost Song is streaming only. I wonder why. And they were like going back and forth. That might have just been just a mistake, an accident in posting.
Probably. Yeah, I didn't see that at the time. Maybe by the time I saw the blog post, it was already fixed.
Yeah, I was
Weird.
seeing these screenshots and people discussing it. So yeah, maybe that's what it was. It was just an error, and they went back and fixed it real quick. So
Mm.
that was just messing with me. But yeah.
All right. Well, in other PS Plus news, we learned about another day one launch title going into PS Plus Extra. So that's next month, The Plucky Squire, now confirmed for September 17th. That game was actually planned to come out next year, like in January. So they moved it way up.
Yep.
And it's launching into Extra and Premium. So we don't get those day one titles too often on PS Plus, but it seems like that's the perfect kind of middle ground game. It seems like anytime there's a day one launch in PS Plus Extra, it's almost always these sort of AA style games from like Devolver or something like that. So pretty good candidate, especially because that game, I don't know about you, I like love the presentation, the vibe, the sort of storycraft presentation of jumping in and out of the book with the sort of top down view, and that kind of stuff's right up my alley. So I think that's like a great game to get on Extra.
Oh, the game looks awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when they first showed it, it actually got a lot of interest online. When I first saw, I was like, I wonder if this is gonna be a talking point for people, and it was. People were like, wow, I like the idea of going between the storybook on the table, and you jump out, and all of a sudden it's 3D. That is a fun concept, and I kind of get why maybe it's taken them a little bit to get it figured out, because I could see some issues in the game, some game breaking stuff randomly happening or glitches. But Devolver has actually been kind of on a roll with some of their games too recently. So making a deal like this, I think this is how I'd rather see PlayStation Plus, like get these kind of games day one. I know people want the big AAA games in there. I don't know how realistic that is unless the price around the subscription just went way up or something. I do think games like these make more sense anyway, because it just adds to discovery. It kind of gets these studios, probably, to be honest, gets them in the black very quickly because Sony's obviously giving them a check for it. And a game like Plucky Squire, I think, is something that people wouldn't necessarily have gone out and bought on a whim, but they'll download on a whim. And maybe that's enough right there to be like, oh, what other indie games are there? What other Devolver games? So I know there's a lot of strategy involved there from Devolver as well, but I think Plucky Squire has potential for a bit of a breakout, like indie success story. So I'm there day one. I'll be downloading it. I'll play it right here on the PS5 and check it out. And if I like it, I will. I think they're doing I don't know. Are they doing a physical copy for that?
I think they already confirmed that it would be like, that delay where it's going to come later down the road.
I will get it physically. I would probably get it. I might even get on this like Switch cartridge or something just to have it, in the cartridge. I don't know. Somehow getting something like that, little indie game like on a cartridge, and then also having it even potentially digitally on PS Plus there is, I don't know, it's something nice to have with that. So
seems like that happens all the time though. Almost always now it's a matter of if you want physical, you're actually waiting longer for it. And typically it's like it charges you, like you're going to actually spend more money because it's like, at least 40 retail normally. So,
well, it's better than not getting it, I guess. That's that future's coming.
Well, played Stray day one on PS Plus, then I went out and bought 2 copies. So,
like I said, I don't mind if it goes in a subscription service. It does make it a little easier than I'm going to buy this now, and then I'm going to be buying it again later. So these are the releases I'm okay with to get into the PlayStation Plus. That is really annoying having to double dip on the game for that.
Yeah, it's the sacrifices we make to hold something in our hands. All right, let's talk about PlayStation Stars. Oh boy, this did not go over well. Sony sent out some emails about new terms that must be accepted. So effective October 24th, new points are now going to expire 12 months after they're earned instead of 24. And then effective, I think it was sometime next year, so they're going to exclude subscriptions from being able to earn points. So they're no longer eligible. So any subscription you have on PSN, if it's like EA Access or obviously PS Plus, which, if you're like paying for premium, that's $160 a year.
Yeah.
That's like 4% back from Stars. And now you're not going to get that. So I feel like we've seen Sony finally have like the first year of this service out there, ran the numbers, and then went, ooh, gonna have to scale this back.
How thin is that margin? Where they're like, oh, hold on, those PlayStation Stars points might be make or break. We got to get rid of that. Like, yeah, I did go in after I read that. I was like, oh yeah, that's right. I do get a lot of points for Stars. Let me see. And I just had like $40 worth of points just sitting there. So I just went ahead and redeemed it, and I actually paid for a good chunk of Black Myth Wukong. But that is, yeah, that was nice. But it is funny that Sony looked at the subscription service like, nope, get rid of those coupons, give her that money back.
I was like, they increased the price of Plus. It's like, okay, well, that sucks. But now that's a pretty big annual fee that is no longer eligible for that 4% back. That's basically what you're getting anytime you spend on PSN through Stars. So yeah, that first year is probably like, ooh, we're maybe spending a little bit too much on this. So hopefully they don't make it worse.
I guess there's a lot of people who don't even know Stars is a thing because it was gone for how long, like a month plus, and people didn't even realize it. So,
yeah, I don't know. I don't know about you. I've seen this pop up a lot, though. I'm just going to insert this in here. Little pet peeve. The amount of times I've seen people say, don't ever redeem your Stars on because you know how you can redeem either PSN wallet funds or the games. And there's only like a small selection of games, like Stellar Blade is on there and like Dredge or whatever the case is. I haven't checked it in a while, but it's good advice to say never redeem the games 99% of the time. But are we overlooking that if God forbid you do want one of those games, you actually should redeem it that way because then you're not going to pay sales tax?
Right. No, you're right. So, honestly, if you don't have Stellar Blade and you've been curious and you have the points, it's like that's a good pickup.
The amount of times I see people say never, ever, ever redeem the games. I'm like, well, hold on, not ever. If you do want that game, and let's say it just came out, which like Stellar Blade did, so unless you can, buy the disc for less or something, or it's like on sale on PSN, then actually that's bad advice. Redeem the game that way. You can, if you do wallet funds, you're going to have to redeem more to cover the sales tax. So
yeah, but you got to get some of the figures too, though. Digital figures.
Some people don't think, John. Some people don't think.
No sales tax on those.
Okay, how about this, John? Did you see this weird thing with the PlayStation Store? Red Dead Redemption's PC port was leaked on the PlayStation Store.
It's Sony announcing more PC games for other platforms than they are.
It's like not even PlayStation news, but I just thought this was funny. Like, how did this happen? Because it's got to be somebody at Rockstar, like sent this like description data to the wrong store. How does that happen?
What it was. That's so funny. Because I had to go through check with Sony, and maybe they were like, all right, whatever, here you go. Somebody there read it and was like, all right, whatever. It's Friday at 4:00. Go ahead, just push it through. That was funny though. When people realized that, they're like, why is the PlayStation Store leaking the PC version of Red Dead?
Yeah. So for those that didn't see, basically it was just the PS4 store listing. So you could see this on the console. And if you just look at the basic description for the game, it said Red Dead Redemption is now on PC for the first time ever, which that game has never officially been on PC. So that's the obvious weird thing to see that on the PlayStation Store.
Soon
enough. There you go. If you're on PC and you want to play that game there, you can thank the
Sony's got you covered. Yeah.
Sony's got you covered. All right. How about Until Dawn? This kind of came, I don't want to say out of nowhere, but it's I guess if we were expecting a state of play or a showcase, you would have thought they'd save it for this. But a new comparison trailer came out. So just showing off some clips of the PS4 versus the updated PS5 and PC release. And also giving us a confirmed release date. So it is coming out October 4th. The pre-orders are already open. Just some bullet points from the trailer there. So they kind of outline again, overhauled visuals. The game's completely rebuilt in UE5. They revised the cinematography and production design. They reworked the prologue, which I believe that's mostly new information, which is the initial opening sequence with the sisters, Hannah and Beth. So I guess they're going to extend that portion of the game, give them a bit more time so you learn about the family before the famous prank plays out in the game. They also did new motion capture, complete control of the camera, as they've said before, new musical score and audio design, and they've also changed all the locations of the in-game totems and added new ones in there as well. And there's also new accessibility options. So if there's any sort of modifiers or toggles you want to use to get through the game, then you can start doing that. Yeah, I mean, it seems pretty straightforward. How are we feeling about Until Dawn?
I mean, I think it's $60. That's interesting. That didn't go over well in mine.
Is it though? I mean, it's like a Last of Us Part 1. This isn't a port, so they were not going to offer an upgrade fee. No. Which is yeah. I mean, I think that was pretty expected. Honestly, I'm surprised it's not 70. Maybe that's where we're at right now, where I'm like, oh, it's not 70. But
that's true.
Yeah, some are seeing 60, and they're not pretty pumped about that.
This might be. I mean, it's coming out around the time of a lot of releases, I feel like. So for me, it wasn't high on my priority list, but I might look to it when it's maybe on sale. I catch it on sale randomly. It's not one that I'm immediately rushing out with everything else that's coming out soon. But some of the stuff they showed, it does look better visually. I have an OLED now that I would play it on versus back in the day. It was, when it came out, I had the basic flat screen. So I feel like everything there is okay, I get it. It's visually looks better. You have some more backstory, extended scenes, additional features. I feel like we are, what you mentioned, that this wasn't in a state of play or showcase or something. I do wonder if they're preparing the sequel to be announced. Maybe not in the immediate, because they have to get this one, or maybe they will, because this is coming out and it's you want to see what happens in the first one, you got to pick this up. It does feel like everything they're doing with Until Dawn is kind of building up the franchise right now, because they're going to do some stuff in film or TV or whatever. They're making the movie.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at this thinking, okay, well, this all makes sense for them to do Until Dawn 2 or Until Dawn, insert subtitle here, whatever it is. That's kind of what I'm thinking. So maybe that's something they would have in a showcase or a state of play to reveal just a new title screen for it or something to get people talking.
Well, that is the running theory right now as to why they're really revisiting Until Dawn like this, is that there's a sequel in development somewhere. whether it is Ballistic Moon, that they're just going to pick up the sequel right where they left off, since it's a lot of former Supermassive staff, or if the sequel is at Fire Sprite, which we're hearing is not a sequel, like their horror game that they're working on. So the running theory there is that maybe they're like doing Siren, but
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would not be shocked at all if we do see like some sort of new Until Dawn game that pops up alongside this, as just a way to start reinvesting in a franchise that historically, like, they were very surprised at how well it did at the time. But once,
I do think this is one though that fits in. Like I said, I think this is one that fits in their current strategy to expand outside of just video games with movies. And we saw. Remember when Saw came out? And that was this massive thing, and they keep making them. Until Dawn, it does kind of have that same sort of horror vibe to it, where maybe it is something that could just keep running continuously in movie theaters or on different streaming platforms or something, and then we also get a game alongside of it.
So you want to turn Until Dawn into an annual horror movie franchise?
Maybe not annual, but like they could have it running. People just never got. Maybe it was just me. I observed this. I wasn't really big into like the Saw movies. Man, people just really never got tired of those things. Did you get tired of it?
I'm a big Saw fan.
That's it. But that's what I mean. How many more are there?
Well, there was 10 for, well.
Oh my gosh.
So wait. Saw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then Final Chapter, which would have been 7, and then Jigsaw, Spiral, The Book of Saw, and then we had Saw X. So yeah, so 10 movies. It took a break for a little bit there, and then it came back. So
10 movies. Jeez.
Well, I mean, that's what I'm saying though. It was an annual franchise after the 2004 release. Then it was annual from that point on. Then it took a little break. But I guess what you're getting at is this what Until Dawn should be doing? Should we be milking the precious teat of Until Dawn?
I mean, they do it with Horizon. Let Until Dawn get in there and get some.
You're not wrong.
Why not? Why not? And also, I mean, we're to the point now where you could make 2 or 3 movies apparently in the time it takes to make a big AAA game.
Well, that's true. So I don't know. I'll say this about the Until Dawn thing. I think it's actually kind of a smart play. The game went super viral back in 2015 when it came out, and is like Bandai Namco is the ones that really got in the way by swooping up Supermassive and then running off with the Dark Pictures anthology. So it's almost like they were waiting for an opportunity to kind of come back around to this. So I don't know if I'll play it right away, but I'll definitely take a look at this remake at a certain point, because it does look quite nice. There's a lot of upside for a game like this getting a remake, in the sense that, like, horror games greatly benefit from it's the lighting. Like, if you look at the comparison shots between the two games, like, gosh, there's a certain air and I guess vibe that the game has that it didn't have from the original 2015 game. And if you go back to the older game, like, it's a little janky, not in the sense that, like, oh, it's meant to be campy, because it is, but it's like, no, it actually is kind of jank. And as we've said before, the game does have problems on PlayStation 5 through backwards compatibility, which they're clearly not going to go back and fix. So
no. $60 fix.
$60 fix. How about this? Silent Hill 2. Now, a lot of stuff came out about this recently, right? So this PS5 timed exclusive. We have a new story trailer. Also, a lot of hands-on from the press. GameSpot, IGN, Push Square, Polygon, they all had some hands-on time. Also, the uncut gameplay. They put out like 25 minutes of gameplay for the like some of the initial sequences. James in the bathroom, walking to Silent Hill, the first combat encounter. John, it looks really good. I am coming around to this.
Bloomer team about to make that comeback right now.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those feedback loops too, because the first trailer, a lot of the complaint was like, oh my God, how did they mess up James' face? How did they mess up that bathroom sequence where he just looks like a middle-aged sad man that kind of looks like all of us nowadays. But no, they really retweaked that initial opening, and now it looks a lot closer to the sort of dread that's about to play out in that game. And it's interesting seeing how they changed the first combat sequence too. It's I think they are navigating that fine line quite well, which is, how do we modernize a game that would be I think very difficult for like newcomers to go in and play. Like I've said before, like if you hand, somebody Silent Hill 2 nowadays, and let's say they're maybe a little bit younger, they would hate the controls and think
Mhm.
it plays terrible and stuff. So it's like how do you recapture that in the same way, but you also don't modernize it to the point where it's like more action focused and you sort of
Right.
lose the high stakes encounters. I don't know. I'll tell you that uncut gameplay really is doing it for me.
The press was really positive with it as well.
Hmm.
Everyone came away from it like, wow, this is just good. So I feel somewhat relieved because there's just been so much uncertainty about this game with Bloober. Maybe it's just Bloober Team in general. People just do not like hearing that Bloober Team's working on a game they're looking forward to. Like
Oh,
it's a
there's no
problem when
doubt.
they see them.
There's no doubt that's what's happening.
Yeah, and I got to admit, Bloober Team said the CEO said it. They're like, I don't know why Konami's doing what they're doing. They kind of like called him out multiple times in interviews, and they said, look, wait, we're gonna show the game. Wait, we'll just show gameplay. It'll be good. And I mean, they might be right. They might be onto something here. I think it's got a good release timing. It's like earlier in October, so you have time to get it and stuff, and still kind of enjoy. People always like, oh, release it on Halloween. But it comes out on Halloween, and then the next day, Halloween season's over. Like it's better, I think, to have it out like a few weeks before Halloween because just all of October, you just walk around seeing people with the big inflatable, pumpkins and stuff in their yard, and people are carving up jack-o'-lanterns, putting them out there like that. There's like 3 weeks where it got that Halloween vibe to it, and that's when you want that kind of a game.
Yeah.
So I think that's a great release timing for it. It doesn't look like they messed up a classic. I'm hopeful. I'm
Oh,
buying it day one.
100% agree. Yeah. I'm feeling a lot more confident about how the game looks right now. So good for Bloober Team. It really was that uncut gameplay that I think sold a lot of folks on where it's at now. All right, let's move on. I guess we got to cover this at some point, right? Concord. So, how
Mm.
do we even unpack this one, John?
Well, let me pull up the numbers for them right now. This has been tough. There's a lot going on with this too right now. Well, right now it's 278 players currently in game on Steam. The 24-hour, actually just the peak all time is 697 players. This I want to preface just on PC. We don't know the PlayStation numbers right now. That's the biggest thing. All right. We're still
Yes.
in the dark about that. But you made a good point on the podcast the other day. If you multiply this number by 10, by 20, it still wouldn't be Suicide Squad levels.
It'd be a bad number. Multiply it by 100. I mean, this is the kind of game where, and it should go without saying, obviously they want to sell as many as they possibly can, but I mean, you would want this game to do 500,000, a million copies. It's not even, John, it's not even close to that. I mean, this has got to be the low thousands
Yeah.
or maybe
I
like just under 10.
I'd be surprised if they hit 10,000 copies sold launch weekend. And that is alarming. Like it's that this is so tough to watch if you're Sony, I'm sure. And I don't know what they did. I was thinking about this because we kind of talked a little bit about what you do. And no one seems to have an answer for it right now because you have some people that have bought it for $40 and then other people who are just kind of watching like the train wreck in slow motion that's happening right now with this game.
Yeah.
Now I will say if we didn't have Steam DB numbers, I don't know if there would be as much discussion around it right now, but man, those PC numbers being out and open like that, it has obviously blown up the conversation around this, but the PlayStation 5 has rankings, right, for sales. So you can see it. Like we should be able to see them this week, how things were going with the sales charts technically on their digital store, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, right away, this would still get scrutinized to what you're saying. I mean, people often do this with like even like Amazon listings. Like, oh, it's
Mhm.
ranked number, it's not even in the top 100, you know what I mean? So what
I,
you're getting
I
at is
where is it in placement for sales? Yeah, because that's how we can
yeah.
track it on PlayStation at this point. That's all we know. And the reason I think people are tracking it right now is because there's belief that Sony's gonna get kind of drastic with this. Like something has to happen, I feel like, because they've told us the roadmap. It's up through April. They're going to make stuff. They've already made it. Maybe there's content coming. I don't know why you make content for 100 people or less if we get to that point. I don't know. Eventually you get to a point where you have a hard time making matches, and then there's this cascading effect where people realize they're sitting there in queue for 10 minutes and they go, what am I doing? And then maybe they have an hour to play a week or something. What am I doing here? Just turn it off, play something else, and then you start dropping numbers. It's a race to zero at that point. And for a live service game, if you get to zero, what's the point of the game? So this is tough. My thing though is, when we heard Sony say they were going to do 12 live service games, we all looked at each other and said, not every one of these is going to work, right? Didn't we all do that? We said, some of these are going to fail.
Yeah, everybody. I mean, of course, some are going to fail. I guess what's more shocking is to see one fail like this. Like, this isn't just bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's the story here. We all knew it was going to do bad, which is, I don't want to say that either. I don't want to ever celebrate the failure of a game or anything, but it is shocking how bad it's doing when you consider like Suicide Squad or Redfall can still pull in thousands day one, and this game conceivably can't.
I don't want. I mean, this sounds really bad, but technically Gollum had 712 peak. So it's technically more than Concord.
That's rough.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean,
here's the other thing too, right? Like, people just don't want this game. It's not gonna the content going up to April, like, that's not gonna sell new people if it's still fundamentally what it is. Like, the people have already decided the game's not good or not good enough to pay money. And I don't know about you, even if they make this thing free tomorrow, that's not going to do anything. Not enough, I imagine. So
not enough. It would get people in. Like, some people would download it just out of curiosity. But you're right. I don't think all of a sudden they'd be like, "Oh, this thing's saved. We have millions of people now joining." I just don't. The problem is, it's a hero shooter that have characters that are just not memorable or interesting, like, at all. I did the beta, right? The open beta, I did all that. And I remember one character, and the reason I remember them, the Star Child character, is because they remind me of a person from Guardians of the Galaxy, an entire different IP that is reminding me of Concord. Like, that's why.
Because again, I've said before, like, this is not, even if this game was doing good, it's not for me. I don't like hero shooters. I don't like the 5v5 thing. So I checked out on the game already. What I did last night was, I was like, you know what? I'm going to just look up some gameplay, watch people play it. And
sure.
I watched like an upload that just went through like the character selection screen. I just looked at the characters, and I didn't hate them. So I don't know. I'm trying to, like, I guess, get a sense of why people are so, whatever about the game. I feel like, and here's the thing, right? Somebody mentioned this recently on the podcast as well, which is like, the only like possible U-turn the game could have is kind of like a Fortnite, in that it fundamentally just becomes something else. Like, what it is right now is just not gonna, it doesn't matter. They can't just keep making free gunners and modes. It's not going to change. Like, you just have to fundamentally make this a different game. And I don't know if Sony's willing to bankroll that,
I don't think so. I would assume the reason it worked for Fortnite is because they saw the battle royale thing taking off as it was happening, and they just moved in on that territory. There was a lot of stuff with PUBG at that time that was blowing up, and Fortnite was like, save the earth or something. It was a PvE game, and they pivoted hard. I mean, it was like, all right, all hands on deck. Let's make a battle royale. And right place, right time. I remember PUBG was annoyed with Fortnite because they're like, oh, they're taking our thing that we're doing here. That's really big, but free market. The people you can't copyright the idea of it. They're off and running. And think about it with Fortnite. There's never going to be a Fortnite 2. Like, this is it. This is all like really Epic does that is like substantial, is Fortnite. And now it's turned into this big platform, and it feels like the live service sector, expectations are so high right now that if you turn up with the stunt doubles from Overwatch 2, it's just not going to move the needle. It has to be so different now to break into this market. And I know they started developing, someone mentioned like 8 years ago. I mean, there's like, you got to conceptualize the thing. They're storyboarding, especially with the characters. They made 16 of them and they all have to have their own backstories. Basically, what I'm saying is there's a lot of stuff that happened probably for the first 4 years. And then they went into pre-production, then full production. Still, though, that is a long time. That is people going through high school twice before this game came out.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of like, because the 8-year thing came out and there's like a lot of splitting hairs on that timeline. But that's, I mean, games just take a long time to make, and especially for something like this. There's a lot of discussion surrounding how did this game get out the door? You know, like how did somebody not step in and go, wait a minute, like maybe this is a bad idea. Especially like you look at The Last of Us Online, right? That this comes up a lot in the conversation, which is why did that game get shut down and not this one? Then obviously it's two very different circumstances, but just to illustrate the point of they still had the I guess the courage, or for lack of a better word, to step in and say, okay, this game cost a substantial amount of money, but we still have to shut it down. And why did the same thing not happen for this? For a different circumstance it would be, but even still having that, you know, sort of vigor to say, you know what, we're going to have to cut our losses on this before we put it out there.
I think as soon as they bought that studio, the decision was made. It's coming out. And I that's the one I would question is why did they buy the studio? Once, I mean, they bought Firewalk and they bought the idea of obviously Concord. It's like I just don't know why that decision was made. Because they didn't move to buy Arrowhead with Helldivers 2, and maybe Arrowhead just didn't want to be bought. Whereas in this case, probably Monsters basically sold Firewalk and Concord to Sony, I guess, because they were doing a publishing deal. And
well, probably bought out the agreement or whatever. And
yeah,
the way I always think of it is that if they did it, it was because the price point was good. So I can't imagine it was like a lot of money. I keep calling this game a financial disaster because quite frankly it is, even if it was maybe a little bit more.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
This was an expensive game. This wasn't a cheap thing to do.
No, I mean, but relative to like, let's say like another, you know, whatever Naughty Dog's going to do next, or Santa Monica, like the game is not going to be as expensive as those, because it depends on, you know, where Firewalk's located, the amount of staff. So, but even still, it's a ton of money to spend and lose. But
I feel like they're located in aren't they like in an expensive like area?
Firewalk? No, well, they're not on the West Coast, right? Because that's really where the problem has been lately with Sony and them talking about their studios. Yeah, they're in Washington. Yeah, Washington's still pretty pricey.
That's pretty expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like heart of like Silicon Valley or anything, but Washington is I
don't know what I was thinking before. Yeah, well, either way, there's not that many staff. I mean, well, they're up to 150 something.
Oh, it keeps getting worse. Stop reading.
From what I remember, there were like 100 people. All right, I guess I should double check things before I talk about them. Either way,
the more you read, the worse it gets.
So even then, though, they're still not they're still not costing the company what a Santa Monica or Naughty Dog does.
No, it's not that much expensive.
But I digress. It's a financial disaster because the game is obviously selling nowhere close to where it needs to be a long-term success. I don't even know where the hell I was going with this point at this late in the game. I don't know, man. It's not looking good.
I think that you mentioned, I said like, okay, some of these live service games are going to be failures. That's just the way it is. You cast a wide net, you're not going to catch everything. It's just the way it goes. Some of them get away and they don't work out. I think I am surprised because when I think of the ones that fail, I think of the ones that fail in development and they just shut it down. Deviation, for example, that's a good one that we don't know what happened there, but we know that the Sony said, nah, we're okay. And then they lose half their staff. And then all of a sudden, Sony hires a similar number of developers, apparently from bringing Deviation, and they make a studio internally or something. Yeah. That probably would have been the better thing to do here obviously, look, that is cutthroat in business. It is. Like, I'm sure there was some cold-blooded stuff going on there with Sony and Deviation to make all that happen. maybe they like the leadership at Firewalk and they're like, oh, okay, this meshes well with PlayStation. But Sony's doing this thing where they keep buying studios before they complete a project with them at times. Like, it feels like they're just bringing in studios now. Like we saw with Haven and Jade Raymond, like they just bought them. Bungie, it is bought them. I mean, they had worked with them with Destiny and stuff, but they're just like, bring in this massive entity and $3.2 billion. But when we see things like Firewalk, it's like, what is that I don't say knee-jerk reaction, but the feeling that they have to make that live service push maybe years ago when they did it. And we got to get talent on board that knows how to do it, because we're not necessarily going to have Naughty Dog now go do it. I don't know. It seems like they were a bit all over the place with those kind of decisions.
Well, that's what it is, right? This is a key principle of how Sony's always operated with their studios, which is that they always, if they're gonna acquire a studio, it was always long-standing partners that they've worked with historically for 10 plus years. They value talent, and this is where it's always been like a huge misnomer with how Sony went about acquiring studios. When people always say, oh, they should pick up, studio X, Y, and Z, or this publisher or whatever, right? Because that was the conversation when Microsoft went studio crazy. But it's like, no, everyone's getting this wrong. Sony does not chase IP. They have IP. They chase talent. But after they acquired all of their well-known partners, the last few were, your Housemarque, your Blue Point, at that point, they sort of exhausted their well-known, long-standing second-party studios. To me, at least, it would appear as though the way they went about this now was, well, we still fundamentally care about talent before IP, because we can just build IP, and that's how we've always done it. So it's a matter of seeking out talent. I mean, that's why, somebody like Jade Raymond, it's that connection, that relationship, that kind of industry experience. Same for Tony Hsu, the founder of Firewalk, right? I mean, these are a lot of talented former staff, and it's a more, again, I find it's a little bit more fiscally safe than, let's say, buying an established studio where it's going to cost a shitload of more money, because Firewalk's new and they're unproven, they're not established. I can't picture a scenario where that wasn't like going to be a lot cheaper to do versus picking up somebody that's already been doing well. I mean, Bungie's an example here, right? Like, obviously Bungie was a crap ton of money, so. And Bungie's a bit of an outlier because they obviously wanted the talent for that studio as well. And that still tracks with, the sort of principles that they have when acquiring studios. Is okay, Bungie seems like a very weird thing. That's new for PlayStation Studios, but it was still like, we want the talent that this team represents, and we want their expertise, we want their knowledge and insight and their integration to oversee our other projects. So the acquisition of Firewalk still, in my view, does make sense, but it is very puzzling to now see that this is the game we got out of it. It's still a talented studio. I mean, Concord is a technically sound game.
Yeah, it is.
Right? Like, in theory, like and this is like maybe too soon to say, but it's like, okay, if Concord dies, which is not a hard thing to picture, I would hope that they keep the studio around and just give them another shot. They're clearly talented people that know what they're doing. They can make something else.
Right? So, PlayStation hero shooter. PlayStation hero shooter.
Maybe. I mean, if we're talking about characters and that's like the big hurdle, I mean, yeah, that could have probably went over a lot better than what Concord's doing, right? So
Marvel Rivals, those concurrent player count numbers in beta got up to 50 some odd thousand.
Yeah.
That's all Marvel characters. We don't need them to create a backstory. We've already made our own. If you could play as Kratos and take on Sly Cooper, you already got the storyline set in your mind before the thing comes out.
What do you think the timeline looks like if we have Concord gameplay, but it's actually Marvel characters, and then you have the Marvel game, but it's Concord characters? So, how much? So let's really go. Let's go there, John. How much strength is it based on the characters and the IP?
I think at this point, with the hero shooter genre kind of being decided right now, you need a lot to pull people away from those games. And Marvel Rivals has kind of done it. And I got to tell you, it's mostly on the strength of those characters, that IP. Like,
so
these Marvel characters come in. No, I don't think so. I think it's the characters. I think that's the biggest factor right now in hero shooters is, look, you come into the game. I just feel like things out of Overwatch, for example, are just so established. And then people go in and like, I got to learn 16 more characters here. And I think I'm okay. And it's just they're so attached to those other hero shooters that are also free to play. There has to be something that really pulls them in. I mean, Marvel Rivals is free to play. Apparently, all the characters can be unlocked from the jump. Like that's it. There's unlocked.
Did you play Rivals?
I didn't. I saw some gameplay
Okay.
for it. I didn't go out and because you had to send an email in to get a code for it to do it. It's coming out in December. I'll probably download it and try it out. I will. At least
I was just curious. Yeah, I was just curious to see like what because I haven't heard a whole lot about Rivals in terms of how fun it is, but it's like I don't know. It seems like the consensus with Concord is that it's not also like up to snuff in the gameplay department. It's like a more of an inoffensive game for the moment to moment gameplay. But I'm curious as to, I guess, where Rivals falls on that spectrum. If it is like the characters doing a lot of the heavy lifting.
Right. Well, let me ask you this: what's one of the most interesting and exciting parts of Astrobot that's coming up? It's the cameo. I mean, it's the cameos, right?
No, I don't. Here's the thing. It's obviously super cool, but it's like it's a platformer. I think it's a beautiful, colorful platformer.
But the cameos, they put it a little bit over the top for you, doesn't it? It's like, oh, wait a minute. There's because we saw those leaks, and it's like, oh, okay,
it helps.
Cameos in here.
Okay, hey, it helps, but
we assume right now it hasn't technically come out yet. We assume it's a technically sound 3D platformer, and now it's going to have cameos from other IPs within Sony and then also third-party ones. All I'm saying is picture a hero shooter with Sony characters. They like the asymmetrical stuff, and you can have them all play completely differently and all that. And then you occasionally treat it like a Smash Brothers where you bring in some third-party heroes and they're added in the mix as you go along.
Well, there's no doubt in my mind that would do better than what Concord's doing. but that's a low bar, John. I mean, come on.
I mean, take advantage of that PlayStation Studios status right now. They're brought into the family, the quote unquote family.
Hey,
start using it.
They are an Astrobot.
Oh. Well, I'll be playing Astrobot. Yeah. I'll buy that one.
Well, it's interesting too. Deadlock, right? Like that's doing really.
Oh my gosh! Did you see that? The thing doesn't even really have textures half the time, and it's 90,000 people playing it.
You know what though? It's so interesting how I guess these things are perceived, right? Because and I don't know if this is a fair thing to say, but it would appear to me as though like Deadlock has a je ne sais quoi to it because it's Valve.
Yeah,
right. Like it's like let's not beat around the bush. Like I think if any other name was attached to Deadlock, would it be doing what it's doing right now? I
don't think so.
I don't think so. No. So it's
a little different. It's a hero shooter mixed with a MOBA. I'll give them a little credit there. There's a slight twist on it, whereas this Concord feels like cookie cutter Overwatch. And if you're gonna be cookie cutter Overwatch, you got to have a twist. Marvel Rivals has the Marvel characters. PlayStation Studios, PlayStation. I mean, come on, PlayStation All Stars. I get it. It wasn't the craziest thing. It was Smash Brothers with like the PlayStation characters, but like hero shooters with well-known characters does seem to be working. So I don't know, maybe a misstep there. Although they were probably already somewhat in development. They were like, we've created backstory for 12 of these 16 characters. We don't want to change them all to Kratos and I don't know, Cole or whatever. Right? It's like I don't want to do all that, but it would be better. It would have worked.
Well, one thing seems clear. There's just it seems like every part of this game is just not really lining up. Whether it is the gameplay, the characters, and that initial price point. Which, as a side note, and I've been thinking about this a lot lately, which is the complaints of the $40 price tag, and if it was free, that would be like so much better. You know, so many people are still complaining about how I guess there's this wanton desire to go back to like PS3 360, where it's like just standard arena style games, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like, oh, I wish I could pay that upfront fee, maybe get some single player content, but then get like a multiplayer that doesn't have to be a forever game. You know, why? Like how, like you can spend $40 on Helldivers and then play it for 20, 30 hours. And is that still not exactly the same mileage that you would have? Is that not the same thing? Right? You don't have to play Helldivers 2 forever. It's a very, I don't know. I've been thinking about this a lot lately. It's like, if you really want to go back to that, you still can. Just play until you're done.
I think, well, that's the thing though. I think the push now is to not have any single player. It's like, that's it. There's just, you're going to do these modes, PvE in case of Helldivers 2, right? Whereas before, like for example, Stranglehold comes out, you have an entire campaign you play through, and then you jump into different rooms and you play against each other. It's just fun, great, awesome, and then you're done. Like that's it. You just occasionally jump online with some friends, but there's enough of a single player element to it to where you feel like you're getting your money's worth there. And then it's almost like the multiplayer is just like an extra thing that you got. This is fun. Let's just go online with it. If it works, great. If not, I had a whole single player out of it. Maybe that's just me, but I don't mind those. Or like Metal Gear Solid, like when we had like 5, that had an online component to it that was pretty cool. The old days that I think back on were Halo 2, Halo 3. That was kind of it. Like Halo 4 is fine, but like Halo 3 was like golden era online gaming for consoles with the Xbox 360, and Call of Duty came out right around that time too. It was just incredible stuff. And it was legitimately just you go online with some friends, you play for a bit, and then you go offline and do the single player, or you're done. That's it. And those games still stood the test of time. People were trying their hardest to keep some of these games online when the servers were being shut down. It wasn't the opposite of them trying to get people to use the servers. They were keeping the servers open because it was getting shut down by the company. They did not want them to go away. So it's just I don't know. There's something different, it feels like, about some of these online games. And maybe it's that we're becoming so aware of all these other ways they're trying to extract money from us with the microtransactions and the battle passes, to where you look at it and you just, in your mind, you're like, oh, again. All right. It's just there's this fatigue to the live service stuff that it's got to evolve. It's got to in some way improve, or I feel like we just go back to the old days. I don't mind that. And also the live service stuff, it needs so much of that studio to keep this thing upright, because the belief is you need to update it every few days, every week. And it's got to have new content, new skins, all kinds of things, to bright colors and lights and flashing to keep you excited for it. And it's like, man, back in the day, you just yelled back and forth with your friends for a couple hours at night, and that was enough. You know, man,
it's a different. I guess it's just it highlights the difference in play habits. That's probably
I mean, like I'll go online and I'll play WWE at times. Nate and I'll play, and I realize you get no ranking, you unlock nothing when you play it, and we just play it for fun. Like that's it. It's just like, I'll go online, we'll jump in a few rooms, we'll beat some people up, and then we'll call it a night. And that's it. It's just like a couple times a week or something. It's just fun. I don't know. There's no battle pass to work towards, nothing. So maybe that's the old me, the young me, I should say, who's like, man, I remember those days.
Yeah. I just find it an interesting thing to consider with how they're approaching Helldivers 2 and Concord with this $40 upfront fee, which in a way does harken back to, I just want to pay for a game and then get the content.
It works like for Helldivers, though.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like it makes sense on paper if you value that sort of monetization, knowing that you're not going to be, nickel and dimed for every pass that comes up and every sort of extra expansion, even though they're still going to offer that stuff.
I think that can work, though, if you're not in a sector where free to play has been so established at this point. And there are examples of hero shooters failing all the time, even free to play, but also asking for money, like Lawbreakers. There was so much research already done for them. It just seems strange that they went face first into what was a very generic looking hero shooter.
Well, I don't know, man. It's a crazy thing, but
I like the idea of reinventing it. Reinvent it.
I think that's what they're attempting to do here. But it's crazy to see, right? We had one that became one of PlayStation's best-selling games in the history of the company, and then one that is going to go down as the worst for their live service initiative.
Yeah,
it is so crazy. So crazy how different they are. Because I don't think a lot of us were really expecting Helldivers 2 to be what it was.
No.
For all intents and purposes, that is a new IP. Who the hell played Helldivers 1 on PS3, PS4, Vita, and Steam? That was a new IP. Let's come on. It's kind of nuts. Although I love how people keep describing Helldivers 2, which is they feel like it's a PS3 style game with the sort of gameplay. Yeah. And I'm right there. It
goes back to those days, though. It goes back to those days.
You're right. I'm right there with you. Like, if I had more time, I'd probably be playing Helldivers 2 a lot. It absolutely has those vibes.
I just want that arena shooter, like a Killzone, Resistance. Just there's shooters out there they could tap just for that arena shooter to see what happens. And it doesn't have to be a live service thing.
But that's the thing. It would have to keep it an arena shooter. I just talked about this today. I'm like, dude, people keep saying, why don't they the character is the problem, right? So it's like, oh, why don't we do a SOCOM, a Killzone, Resistance? And I'm like, whoa, I think you're asking for something you don't want. I do not want them to touch those IP and then turn them into live service. You're going to hate that more than you hate Concord, guaranteed.
I just don't. I don't know how much time Sony thinks people have as well. Really, any of these companies, they all want to have live service games running. Sony apparently wants to have multiple lanes of live service games. People only have so much time, and these live service games, man, I'm telling you, they want you always on the game, logging in, playing, and it's like, maybe I want to play the Astrobot or something. I don't know. It just always wants you signing in. It's like, hey, did you play today? You got to get your daily login bonus. But I got to play this other live service game, this other one. Sony wants to make 6 of them. It's like, what are we? I don't know.
They make some money.
It's like you got to have these hard lessons. I don't say deter you, but make you reevaluate. It's like, okay, well, hold on. Maybe we have to look at these live service games in a different light. And I feel like whoever the first one is to create the different or the next level of live service games to where it doesn't feel like the current ones you're going to be successful. And maybe Helldivers 2 was one of them. And we'll see more. But I'm looking at, for example, Splitgate 2, and that right now looks kind of like a game I'm asking for. So that's one I'll try out. And that's not even out to next year. But I think if you have a cookie cutter game that's already an established sector, you got to tap an IP that's already known, and you got to bring it in.
Well said. Yeah. All right. Let's move on to, how about Hideo Kojima and Death Stranding 2? Because we actually have some movement here, as Kojima likes to do. So initially, he did his little Twitter teases. So those new promo images with the Who Am I silhouettes, which are, of course, going to be somebody that has a role in Death Stranding 2. He put out 2 of those and then 2 variations of those images up until confirming that there's going to be a presentation at TGS this year, September 29th. So a Death Stranding 2 sort of stage panel presentation talking about the game. We don't exactly know what's going to be said, but I think that's, information enough to tell us, okay, we're probably going to get something for this game, perhaps prior to that panel, which could be by way of a new trailer, a new state of play, maybe a showcase.
Showcase.
Yeah, it could be something.
It's time. So stop messing around. It's time for the showcase. Go ahead.
So Sony confirmed what they're going to have at their TGS booth. I don't think it's 100% set in stone as far as if they'll have more than this, but they are willing to say right now that they're going to bring Astrobot playable and then also Monster Hunter Wilds, which smart play for them, aligning themselves very closely with that game and having marketing rights, considering that game is going to do
it's massive in Japan.
Yeah, it's going to be massive. Yeah. But they're going to have that at the show floor. So they're not necessarily showing their hand on we're at TGS this year. And the reason why is because we're going to have something prior that's going to announce things. And then we're going to have stuff at TGS. But I mean, Death Stranding 2 being there, I think is pretty telling. So we're it's got to be weeks away. I mean, we're very close to potentially having something pop up. We still have no indications as to what that could or could not be, though.
I mean, I think the writing's on the wall. It's time for that showcase. It's been so long. It seems like you assume reloaded behind the scenes, because right now we have Astrobot coming. We just talked about Death Stranding 2, where there's already teases happening, probably around some sort of event for it. You mentioned it could be a trailer drop. That's also possible. But after that, we just had Concord. And I said before, one of the ways you can kind of, I don't want to say fix the Concord situation, but alleviate some of the concerns is with a showcase, and you show games. It's always games.
The best way to deal with Concord is to bury it.
Bury it. Yes. What are you talking about? I don't know what that is. Concord. What?
I mean, the obvious thing here is that we're also waiting for the Pro, which is expected to be announced in September for a release in November. So yeah, we've got to be very close to them finally saying something. So I'm not sure there's really much more to add here outside of got to play the waiting game, huh?
I'm very interested to see what Death Stranding was going on with this game. It's I
Yes.
liked the first one. It was very controversial when it came out, but I thought it was different enough, and I'm interested to see if they do anything with the gameplay and make it feel like it's different from the first one, because it sort of looked like you were still delivering packages. So I'll
It's
say.
you know what's funny with that game is that like you said, I remember this very clearly. Game comes out extremely polarizing. It's like completely different now. Anytime I see DS2 come up, or rather just Death Stranding, I always see people revisiting the game or like giving it a second chance, and then they like have this coming of like Jesus moment of like, oh, I get it now. Like I get it. I delivered more packages, and now I understand the Strand game. It's in a
Mm.
way I kind of I'm basking right now. I'm drinking it every time I see these posts. I'm like, yes, this game was
Have you turned that game on anytime recently in the past? I'll even say like 6 months. Have you
yeah,
even tried it?
yes, because I sometimes just use it for generic B-roll. Like if I'm just
Oh,
talking
okay.
about a game or something, I'll just boot it up because I've got a complete save. So it's like the game's like fully matured. So I can always like hop in and just like load up a bunch of packages on Sam or something and like get in a car and drive on the
Do
highway
you
and
see all the stuff? I think just fired it up like 2 months ago or something, and I like so much stuff was just populated in my world. Like people are building all kinds of crazy stuff in that game. It's way different than when it first came out, where obviously people were all starting at the same time. You didn't have a lot of that stuff. Now it's like I got like a mini city. There's like roads. It's like agriculture over there. It was crazy looking. So
there's farmers all of a sudden.
yeah, it was pretty cool. So that maybe that's what the big revelation is. He's doing something with the strand system to like take that to the next level or next gen it. And so
I would almost safely assume like there's going to be some sort of weird little, you know, I guess addition here that he's not talking about just yet. But that game looks just so goofy and ridiculous, just like the first one. So I'm all for it, and hopefully we'll see more very soon. All right, let's move on to Gamescom 2024. This year was pretty interesting in that. So Sony typically does like to give Jeff Keighley some kind of announcement. Now that's almost
Mhm.
always like Summer Game Fest. Gamescom is not a surefire thing. So it was like 2022, I want to say, where that was when they showed off. It was like some hardware stuff. I don't remember if it was the Portal or the DualSense Edge or whatever.
I
They
think it was
gave,
the DualSense Edge, right? It was the
yeah,
Edge.
they gave him a trailer, and that was
Yeah.
during Gamescom. If I remember correctly, some years they give him something, sometimes they don't. Anyway, the point is nothing here for like an actual SIE announcement. Of course, there were a number of like
Like the
third party
showcase
games
is
that were.
coming. Go
Of course, there
ahead.
were a number of third party games announced, but really the news here is that for Microsoft, they did confirm Indiana Jones coming to PlayStation 5 this spring, which this kind of goes into last week's rumors about how we were hearing that, oh, another game's going to get confirmed again, another Xbox Game Studios title. Some names were getting thrown out there like Forza Horizon or maybe Flight Simulator or something, but it would appear as though the announcement was Indiana Jones. Shout out to Nate. He was the one that put that out there right before this announcement was confirmed. And Tom Warren, writing for The Verge, also says that sources familiar with Bethesda's plans say the company is targeting an April release for the game. So they only confirmed spring, but that should be April is what they're looking to do. And it's, I guess, more of what Microsoft's planning on doing. Phil did provide some words on this at Gamescom, saying that, you know, there's a lot of these companies are looking for ways to grow. And so this is one of those ways where they're sort of outlining right away that in terms of how we ship and sell games and how we distribute games, that's changing for all of us is how he quotes it. So a lot to unpack on this one. I've said before many times over, it would appear as though this is obviously a pretty big U-turn for Microsoft in recent, I can't even say years, recent months is what it feels like, because the big thing with Indiana Jones is that they originally amended the deal with this game with Disney when they acquired Bethesda. So they did initially have every intention to not ship a PlayStation 5 version when they acquired Bethesda in 2021. But times are a changing, John. CTO at Microsoft, the CEO, those shareholders, and also the Xbox division, just not really doing all that well. So they want they want some returns. There was clearly a requirement now to start shipping on PlayStation. This game is now coming to PS5. How are we feeling on this one?
I mean, I think they're just looking at the money they invested, like near 90 billion. All right, we need to start getting this money back. And I mean, we see the Microsoft. The problem with Microsoft and what makes it so difficult is they really don't tell us a lot of information about the Xbox division. So we get percentages. I think like the past couple of years has been down 30%, down 44% for console sales. So that's not trending in the right direction, obviously, which we're beyond the halfway mark. And usually we see it as a bell curve and it should be maybe declining a bit, but not at that rate. It should be like, oh, it's down 4%, down 3%, something like that. Okay, well, yeah, basically it's almost flat then. No, this is like steep drop-offs to where it feels like the Xbox system is kind of tapping out now. And recently they went ahead and announced a $600 SKU, which that seems counterproductive there, but that's what they're doing, and which makes me wonder about the PS5 Pro price. But I'm sure we'll see that hopefully soonish. We can talk about that one, but it's so confusing to see Microsoft's strategy here because now it does feel like anything could come over to PlayStation, and it makes you wonder why, for example, this was announced now as opposed to them announcing it to start 2025. It's like, oh yeah, the holiday season. Indiana Jones come out in December. Buy it here or not, whatever. It'll be on PS5 next year. And it's like, okay, I guess the PS5 owners are just gonna hang out and wait, and that'll be it. Like, I don't think there's ever a world where, well, okay, I shouldn't say that because I think it's possible it could happen if certain things happen, but like Microsoft's never gonna Game Pass on PlayStation's platform in their current form. Like they would have to basically leave hardware behind completely, become a publisher like EA, for example, or Ubisoft, and then they might be able to get that on there, a curated list. But I don't think there's any place for them to grow there. So I guess their mindset is we'll have Game Pass on Xbox and we'll just sell to PlayStation owners. And Sea of Thieves reportedly sold 1 million units. That's pretty good. You know, that's probably what made them go, oh, well, okay, Indiana Jones is going to PS5 now. Like that's probably it. Also, we did see those numbers for Spider-Man, which Spider-Man I'm sure is more expensive than Indiana Jones, but it sort of sets in motion like the thought process of how much is this game going to cost Microsoft in terms of licensing fees? It's got to be still something, right? It's got to be
licensing fees. Yeah.
Also, I want to bring up one thing. Makes a lot of sense why Blade didn't have any kind of platform announced for it, doesn't it? No Xbox logo was on it, nothing at the time when they first announced it, and everyone was questioning it. And people were like, oh, no, it's fine. Now I'm like, well, that game's going to PlayStation.
No, I remember this clearly because at the time I was like, why are we freaking out over them not announcing platforms? But no, there was some very real validity to that, those eyebrow raisings of like, why did you not confirm this or why did you not name platforms specifically, which was, I guess, unusual enough. Yeah, that game is more than likely coming to PlayStation 5. That alongside many other things.
Is there a game or franchise you specifically would want to see come over to PlayStation, Ryan? Like as like a PlayStation fan, you look at Xbox's lineup. Is there something where you're like, oh, that'd be kind of cool to get the platinum trophy for?
I mean, it's one of those things where like, sure, like if they're going to start doing this for all their games, then I'd probably pick up the PlayStation versions and earn the trophies because that's just what I like to do. But yeah, I talked about this on the podcast, which was like I did not necessarily want Microsoft to go down this road. I mean, I still vehemently want 3 platform holders. I want all 3 to be healthy. I want Microsoft to be doing well. But I've also been, I've never fully backed the Game Pass dream because that's where they're at now, is trying to sustain Game Pass by clearly shipping on a competitor. I mean, I still will beat this drum time and time again. I feel like Series X is great hardware, and it's disappointing to see it's gotten like 2 years in a row of like 30% year-over-year drops. Like that's the problem. Like as you mentioned, the bell curve is right around this time. Like last year was PlayStation 5's peak, so to speak. So now they're expecting, gradual decline. So like, to have 30% over 30% drops 2 years in a row. Like last year should have been a peak year for Microsoft, when realistically it was actually the year prior to that. Like it's bad, man. It's really, really bad. They didn't want to do this. If Xbox hardware was doing better, there's no doubt in my mind they would maybe try and hold out on the Game Pass stream a little bit longer, because this does kind of get in the weeds of like, okay, Game Pass just on its own, no matter how many Xbox consoles you sell, is still going to be a very tough thing to sustain, given that they were loss leading for a very long time. But when you bring in ABK and you bring all that staff and the running costs associated with ABK, something has got to give. It took ABK for that to happen.
Yeah. I think I think when Game Pass got stuck, because it appears to have hit some sort of like ceiling right now, to where they can't seem to break through like this 33 or 34 million mark for the subscription service, and they were planning on having like hundreds of millions of people signed up to this thing. And I think they even had like a timeline that was sort of set out for incentives and stuff for like the executives. It feels like they are like, oh, how do we extract money in like the short term right now while we figure out this Game Pass strategy? Because I feel like right now they're trying to figure it out all over again, and it might be linked to their next generation device, but that's still, even if they try to jump ahead of Sony, they're still years away from that. Like, it's not happening next year. So there's going to be, I feel like it's going to be kind of a tough time for Microsoft in terms of their console sales. It already kind of is, but especially throughout next year and then 2026, where it's like we're seeing these declines continuing, and they got to find money. So PlayStation is right there in their mind. They figure, hey, we can sell 1 million or 2 copies of, Indiana Jones, and that maybe that alone will pay for a large majority of the licensing fees and the development costs, and we'll just get weekend from Game Pass. But you're right, this is a strange time in the industry right now when you see Microsoft do this. But like the way you mentioned with Phil Spencer, where he kind of talked about the industry changing, it almost sounds like Microsoft or Phil Spencer saying, well, yeah, it's kind of how it might be for a lot of people, like a lot of the companies. Like, I sort of feel like this is just an Xbox thing. Yeah, that's just got it. Like, you think Nintendo's going to be like, oh yeah, we got you. Mario's going on PlayStation. It's going on Xbox. Absolutely. No, Nintendo would rather go out of business for that happens. The way
it's like the way he, like, I don't want to like just dog on Phil the whole time. Like he's spoken a way where it's like, there's the plausibility of what he's saying just in a broad general sense, which there is truth to it. And that Sony is also trying to grow. They're doing more PC. They've opened a PlayStation Studios mobile division. So yes, absolutely, they are looking for ways to grow in the same manner. But it's all about that context. Like Sony is in a position of not having to ship on what was historically their closest competitor, but you guys do have to. So yes, things are changing, but there is a difference in terms of, how individual, publishers and individual platform holders in this case, what they can and cannot get away with for looking for that growth. And yeah, Nintendo is very conservative. I mean, if there's, out of the big three, the ones that are going to have the most sort of pushback on maybe getting to that theoretical timeline where they're shipping on competitors, it's very far away, I imagine, for them.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I think they would approach PC over anything. Like, they would even be like, I'm going to put anything on Sony. I mean, hey, technically PlayStation's putting something on Switch, so I don't know.
That too, right? I mean, they are changing. They're all looking to grow. But
and put it on Xbox though.
Yeah, because they don't have to.
None of that. Yeah, that's
they don't have to.
That's true. And you have to question, because we've seen we've seen some weird omissions at times with Microsoft's logo not popping up next to Nintendo and Sony with the third parties. And then you hear some of the chatter from developers who occasionally put stuff out online, and it's like, it's actually kind of hard to sell stuff a la carte on Xbox right now, because Game Pass has started to do that training of, if it's on Game Pass, great. If not, I'll just play something else on Game Pass. And that's kind of been the way. That's just sort of how it's been. I mean, we even see Microsoft kind of working more and more away from physical releases. They don't even have dual like the Ultra HD Blu-ray that holds 100 gigabytes. They don't have that, which it was so funny. I figured that out when Baldur's Gate 3 was coming out, and they're like, well, it's got to be another disc on that. And MVG told me, he's like, yeah, they don't have those. It's like, oh, that's right. So it feels like this is the last generation for physical games for Microsoft. Like, this is it.
Yeah.
And when you do that and you couple it with their focus on subscription services, I understand why you might be a developer and go, hold on, do we have a shot at this if we put it there, if we spend the money on a port? And then we see issues with the Xbox Series S. They missed the release of Baldur's Gate 3 last year. They're missing the release of Black Myth Wukong right now. And they both pointed to the Series S as an issue. It's like, man, Microsoft can't catch a break. And this is just kind of the result of that right now, seeing first party games or even licensed deals like this go to other platforms. I'm telling you, Forza Horizon 5, some people might look at that and be like, that's not a huge deal. Forza, I look at that as one of the original releases for Xbox, more so than Gears. People look at me crazy, more so than Gears, because this was a game that back in the day, original Xbox, it was there, like 05. I remember looking at it on Blockbuster shelf, thinking about renting it, and it was right next to Halo. I'll never forget that image, because those were like staples for Microsoft back then that are still around now. You had Fable back then, it just now got revived. Forza's always been there. And it's like, man, if Forza Horizon 5 makes the jump to PlayStation, that I think will be a big moment in gaming for people who've been around for a while and experienced like the build up for it.
No, you're 100% right. Because that's what has not happened yet. We've now got 5 PS5 Xbox games, but we still have not tipped over that edge. The edge of like, no, this was a proper Xbox Game Studios game, an Xbox OG IP. We've not had that actually happen just yet. Forza would be one. I would categorize it as that.
Yeah.
It's the big three, the Forza, Gears, Halo. Like, if one of those happen, like that's where I think you'll see even more conversation surrounding what's already been a very polarizing thing.
Bring over Halo Infinite. Bring it over on PlayStation 5. I would like to go up a couple ranks for Onyx. Hey, PlayStation. I feel like the PlayStation 5 gamers are a bit out of practice. I've seen some of these multiplayer games they have to deal with.
What it's so not even so wild to like. I'm sure that's inevitable, but man, would it be just absolutely nuts to have Infinite finally ship on PlayStation 5, and the game does really well in terms of a la carte sales, well and above what they sold on their home.
Absolutely would.
That's absolutely. It's just, dude. I've said it before. Like this is big. Like I know some folks are like kind of tired about the whole Microsoft on PlayStation 5 thing, but like this is like Sega. This is a big moment that we're witnessing right now. It's just kind of, I think, being dragged out a little bit. Obviously, it takes time. Yes. Games don't just get made overnight, obviously, but a year over year sort of thing. We're just seeing like just so many things play out. Oh, here's the hardware declines. Here's all the stuff that came out from the FTC and the CMA, which shows us in plain view what was kind of going on internally. And now this, sort of in a way they have to start shipping on PlayStation to run the business, as Phil says. It's just, it's fascinating stuff, man. We're witnessing history in the console business.
Yeah, so there was a rumor going around that Microsoft was kicking around the idea, and I think they were at least, I don't say prototyping it, but like putting it together just to see the idea of remaking the first Halo and shipping it on multiple platforms, including PlayStation. If they did that and Halo showed up in some way on PlayStation, guaranteed millions of sales, probably in the first week on just PlayStation specifically. They would make a ton of money right off the bat. So maybe that's a way to revive Halo, because Halo's been through some things in the past couple of years. Maybe that's the move. Maybe that really revitalizes it. It has a bunch of people playing it, and maybe we'll get back to feeling like the old days with it. But it would be strange. It would be Master Chief, the big Microsoft mascot from the beginning, is next to a PlayStation logo. That would be weird.
It'd be insane. I remember that rumor too. I as far as I know, that rumor still got some validity to it if they're still planning on doing that.
Hey, if they do it though, Ryan, hop on. We're going for top 50 rank. We'll pull everyone there.
As long as listen, John, it needs to have a trophy list that's only for single player. If they put a single multiplayer trophy in that game, I'm out.
There are definitely multiplayer achievements in the
Yeah.
Master Chief Collection. Do you know how many achievements there are in the Master Chief Collection?
Oh, it's like, is that not the biggest game in terms of how
It's
many
so
total points
funny.
you can get?
It's so funny how many there are. I don't even have them all. I played that game to death, and it's just like because they have some weird ones in there that I'm like, I'm not gonna do that. I just
But
want to get online and play a lot.
you don't hunt
Um,
them.
I mean, I could look, but I feel like it's a significant amount. Like if they brought that over, you'd be trying to get trophies in that forever, Ryan. I'm telling you, dude.
Well, here's the thing. Sony has a limit on how many trophies you can give a game. So
Oh, okay,
I
interesting.
actually don't think they would be able to, because what is it, like 5,000 points, or is it more than that? It's got to be more, right? It's the biggest game for
Uh,
like achievements, because that would be like the equivalent would be 5 platinums, which you already can't do that on PlayStation 5. So it would have to be like what?
it's loading.
Oh,
Oh, there it is. It has 700 achievements.
yeah, but what's the point value?
7,000.
7,000. Okay, so that would greatly
7
exceed.
platinums, basically.
That would greatly exceed what they'd allow you to do.
7 platinums.
Yeah, I forget what the actual hard limit is. PS5 has a weird caveat where a singular application can only have 1 platinum. And that's different from their mandate on PS3 and 4. You could launch one application and that could have multiple platinums. PS5, it's a weird thing where the singular launcher can only have 1 platinum, but some games have gotten around this where if you load up the Metal Gear Solid Volume 1 collection, that's 1 tile on the home screen, but if you thumb down, then there's 3 launchers, and that's how they were able to give it multiple platinums. That's why Modern Warfare 3 doesn't have a platinum, because it's baked into like the single Warzone application, and that already has a platinum from Modern Warfare 2, if I recall correctly.
Halo Infinite has 144 achievements and just over 2,000 score.
That would probably be fine. It'd probably be 1 platinum, but that would be fine, because you can still add a lot of DLC trophies. I did want to say this about Gamescom though. So the one other announcement that I thought was pretty interesting, Peter Molyneux taking the stage.
Oh my gosh!
No, so I want to mention.
Ryan was like so excited about this.
Hold on. So I want to mention this because this new game that he's putting out, Masters of Albion, which is like a management town god sim game. He actually mentioned that he's a lot of the former staff that he worked with a long time ago at Lionsgate are back on this new team, and that includes Mark Healy, which was a co-founder. He was a co-founder at Media Molecule. He left about a year and a half ago, and the last time we heard from Mark, he spoke with, I think it was Ben Hansen, and he had mentioned that I'm doing something right now, I can't talk about what it is. So that's what it is.
Oh, there you
go. Yeah, because Mark and
Peter, seem like you seemed very excited about this game. It looked like
I don't want to say
black and white.
I don't want to say like super excited, but I was like, I could get down with this. Like the gameplay they showed off, I'm like, I like management games. But yeah, I thought that was funny. Oh, that's where Mark went. Mark Healy from Media Molecule. All right, the other announcement at Gamescom that is PlayStation relevant, that would be Amazon's Secret Level show. This is going to be an anthology series produced by Deadpool's Tim Miller, and he's also the founder of that studio called Blur Studio, which is like a cinematic studio, for high production video game trailers and cinematics. So it's again anthology series, 15 episodes. Each episode is going to be based on a video game property. So some of the titles in there is Armored Core, Crossfire, Dungeons and Dragons, Honor of Kings, Mega Man's in there, John.
Yeah, that's right.
So pumped about that. Pac-Man, Sifu is in there as well, which is pretty cool.
Oh, interesting.
Sifu's in there. The Outer Worlds, Unreal Tournament, Warhammer, but also there's one episode based on PlayStation, just generically PlayStation. So we saw shots of Kratos and Jin Sakai in the initial trailer. So not sure what that episode's going to look like, but the other episode is Concord. So there's 2 PlayStation episodes.
How did that happen?
I would imagine Sony wanted that to happen. But I thought that was worth pointing out. It's funny when Tim took the stage and he was announcing an Amazon show, I'm like I think everybody kind of tuned out. Describing it, I'm like, this actually sounds kind of cool to do like these more self-contained, like maybe tighter stories that are, I don't know what the runtime on this thing's going to be, maybe like 40 minutes to an hour or something, but tell a story, like tell the Sifu story in one episode, do something with Mega Man for one episode. I'm actually kind of interested in this one. So
Yeah, so is it the idea they're hopping between these different universes, or is each one like a self-contained story?
I that's what I think, is that each episode's just based on like, that game and
Oh.
that universe, so like they'll tell the whole story of Sifu in one episode, which you could do because it's not like a massive big game or anything, right? So it's like that makes sense. Although I guess some of these other properties are a lot bigger, but pick a certain story within that universe and just get it told and done in like 50 minutes and have it be its own little thing. I just thought it was like not a bad idea actually in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, no, at first they showed it when they walked up on stage and like, "Hey, TV." It's like, oh, "Okay, here we go." But the more I saw it, the more I was like, "Okay, this actually is pretty cool." So the Mega Man one, obviously, I'm interested in. I'm hoping. Well, at first I was like, "Oh, cool, Mega Man." Capcom keeps referencing this franchise. I've noticed this recently a lot. I know they put it in like the pop figure game, but the fact that they keep doing it, it does make me think that there is something coming for Mega Man soon. And then I saw it here, but then I saw Concord and I was like, oh man.
Oh, like that just ruins the Mega Man episode. Like,
No, I just go, okay, maybe it doesn't mean that much then. I just, I'm hopeful, but this will be a nice way to at least maybe bring some people into the Mega Man franchise a bit. They see it here. Hopefully, it's a really cool episode, and we've seen the effect that specifically streaming shows have had. I know, like movies, the Mario movie obviously had a big effect on Nintendo sales, but like we saw what happened with Fallout when that ended up being good, and just everything across the board. People are the player count number Fallout 3 like when V-shaped. It was just massive push all of a sudden. So that's my hope, is that some of these franchises, maybe some that are a bit quiet right now, maybe there's a reason that it's part of this show outside of just we're going to license this out to you. Maybe there's more of a plan in the background. So maybe I'm thinking too much into it, but I'm hopeful. Mega Man, hopeful. Otherwise, I'll watch it. It'll be fun.
I'm wondering what the hell the Pac-Man episode's going to look like.
Yeah, what is that about? Maybe that. Yeah, that's the interesting part, is like the different art styles. Assume they're going to jump between different styles of like the visuals, and that's gonna be a really cool one. I feel like to put up on a nice TV with HDR blasting. It's like, I think there's gonna be some fun effects. It's Blur. They know what they're doing. So
Yeah. All right, let's move on.
Did they do the?
Oh.
Did they do the? I feel like they did. Did they do the opening cutscene for DC Universe?
For what?
Did they do the opening? I feel like they did the opening cutscene for DC Universe Online. Am I wrong about that? Blur. Do you remember that cutscene?
Vaguely.
That's one of the best cutscenes I feel like in gaming history. If people out there who have never seen it, because you also have to think about the year that this happened, when DCUO first came out. It was okay, yeah. So that was 14. I think DCUO came out 14 years ago.
PC and PlayStation 3.
14 years ago. Go look at that opening cinematic. It's like 6 minutes long. It is incredible, and that was 14 years ago by Blur. Like I said, I think it's definitely one of the most memorable ones I've had, and it's impressive stuff. So Blur, very talented. If you want a nice showpiece for them, check that out. I recommend it. It's on YouTube.
All right. Let's talk about this kind of a pretty bare bones press release, but Sony is developing this Web3 blockchain Sonium. So I'll just read the press release here. Sonium, which obviously is a play on words here for Sony, which is the infrastructure network that forms the basis of Web3. In the future, we will explore and develop a plan to make the network available to the public and aim to create new services by leveraging the various businesses and IP within the Sony group so that Sonium becomes an infrastructure that everyone can use on a daily basis. They don't specifically name PlayStation here, but it's the Sony group, and PlayStation's basically half the goddamn company nowadays in terms of what they're looking to do and how much it earns and all that. So there's some obvious, I guess, PlayStation implications as to what they may or may not do with this down the road. Gosh, I mean, is this really surprising? Sony's a big public company. Of course, they're going to explore this.
No, I don't think it's surprising. Apparently it's an Ethereum layer 2. which is interesting. So this would be like a full on blockchain for them, and I'm curious what their plan is with this, because usually when they describe these things, it's a whole lot of like word salad, nothing. Like they don't actually tell you. They're just like, we're gonna do this, this, and this for, they say, protection of rights to creativity created by creators and new mechanisms for returning profit to support creators and fans. I almost wonder if this has more to do with I mean, it could do gaming stuff, but more like their film and music division than anything else. Is that I think is going to be, it sounds weird now to say, but again, the future could look really different in 10 years. But I feel like that's going to become more and more integrated with this blockchain technology. And I think this is just Sony like, all right, let's just look into this. So they're launching a test net in a few weeks, and people like to treat them like it's a stock market, like these layer twos or Ethereum or whatever. But this seems more functional for Sony. And I think it's going to be something they don't tell you it's blockchain, but it is. It's like they won't tell you what's under the hood. They'll dress it up all nice and pretty. They're calling it Sonium. Okay. And they're gonna, but they're not gonna, they don't want to tell you that's what it is. So they'll paint the Porsche all nice and red, and they'll dress it up, and you won't know what engine is in there basically. Could it go to video game stuff? Maybe. I have no idea what the future of this stuff looks like when you integrate it into entertainment. Because it still has a lot of growing pains, whether it's transaction speeds or fees, what have you. But maybe there's a time where we're able to make each digital asset unique, so you could actually trade in a digital game. I don't know. Maybe it's possible.
I mean, that's the application. That's the only like use case that's ever made sense as far as like what would genuinely excite people. Like nobody cares to hear Web3. Nobody likes hearing about blockchain or crypto or there's a lot of fatigue surrounding all those buzzwords that still to this day for a lot of folks conceivably does not offer anything that would help somebody in their day-to-day lives. That's the one thing where it's like if you propose that to like and just kind of a run-of-the-mill guy, like, hey, that digital library that you have on PlayStation, you're actually allowed to start trading those in, and you can sell them to somebody else and use that value for other games. Sounds amazing. That wouldn't work though for Sony because they don't want you to do that. So it's like, where's the actual upside for like on the ground customers that like don't give a flying fuck about any of this stuff, and they just want like an actual thing that betters their lives in some way?
I think it's more like, as they mentioned here, creativity, protecting creativity for creators is is the idea that if we ever get to a point where people are, you could, I guess, say copywriting these things on a blockchain, Sony set up for it, and you can go to them and you can kind of like quote unquote publish through them. I think that's kind of the idea here. One of the ideas, I should say, for setting up this layer 2 Sonium. So I don't think it's anything we would really notice in the next couple of years even, but again, who knows? 10 years from now, things look way different. Like, think about 10 years ago, in 2014, things were different then. So,
the thing about the press release is that if I'm understanding this correctly, it sounds very bare bones. Like the actual division they've set up, where they're like based in Singapore or something, it says their capital is only like $1 million Singapore dollars.
It's probably just exploratory.
Yeah. This sounds like the kind of press release where it's like, here's all these buzzwords that a shareholder is going to love to hear about. When the actual reality is, this is like 5 people that are.
It's like a couple people in like a break room somewhere.
I don't know. Yeah, it doesn't sound like it's a big thing, but I don't know. It's Sony. Of course, they want to look into this thing.
It's probably more of a research group than anything else. Like, hey, just keep an eye on this. Make sure we don't get caught by surprise if this stuff takes off, and then they can obviously bring people in if they have to. But that's kind of how I'm viewing it: is experimental, exploratory. Keep an eye on this.
Yeah. All right,
they get a ping pong table at least, like set up a nice little thing in their break room and just hang out. I mean, hey.
Well, get some use out of that. Yeah. All right, let's move on to the Mina Hero project. This was recently announced as well. Very happy to see this. I was expecting they would probably open up another incubation program after the China Hero and India Hero project. We have the Mina Hero project. That would be the Middle East, North Africa Hero project. Same deal. So it's going to be this incubation program. If you're a young developer, either you're just one person, maybe you're a team of people, but Sony is going to be opening up applications to where you can apply if you live in the following countries, which that would be Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Bahrain, Iraq, Kuwait, Oman, Qatar, Jordan, Egypt, Morocco, and Tunisia. That's not, I think there's a lot of places that are missing here though. So I've seen some complaints as to the restrictions on what countries can actually apply, but still something where they're looking to invest in that creativity and that untapped talent in those countries. So you can apply, and if you are approved for releasing on PlayStation consoles, then Sony's going to give you some funding, some resources, probably some dev kits, whatever you need to get your project up and out of the door, which I am all for. A lot of really cool creative stuff coming out of the India Hero project already, since a number of those games already got confirmed and shown off. And we've seen a lot of big stuff come out of the China Hero project as well. So I think this is a smart play. I was expecting the maybe like a South America Hero project, but this works. This works too. This works too.
I liked it. I liked it, seeing this kind of stuff. You get more obviously diverse opinions and diverse creators from different worldviews making games, and you come up with some very interesting stuff. So I think it's fun to see this kind of thing, and having that kind of capital at least put in to give people the means to do it is interesting. It's interesting to see what comes out of these initiatives. So it's one to keep an eye on. Obviously, they're just opening applications now. It's not something I feel like we would see anything tangible come out of for a little while, but it's just more stuff happening, more stuff in the pipeline.
Yeah. There's definitely a pretty fast turnaround for India Hero. That was announced really not that long ago, and we already found out what games got brought into the program. So I would expect you will actually maybe see some stuff come out within like maybe half a year or so.
Okay.
Maybe less.
Oh, good stuff. Oh, great.
All right, let's move on to the PlayStation Portal. I thought this was pretty interesting to point out, which the PlayStation Portal is the UK's most popular gaming accessory so far, confirmed by the GfK analyst Dorian Block, where in the UK, the Sony PS Portal remote player has been consistently the #1 or #2 best-selling gaming accessory by revenue, little caveat there, since the launch in November 2023. Now, despite the revenue caveat, I mean, since the other accessory that's the #1 seller typically, or at least before the Portal came out, was always like the DualSense. Like everybody just buys an extra controller. So given, MSRP, that means like there's maybe one Portal being sold for every like 3 controllers, which that alone still sounds like a lot of Portals. So, between that and also what we hear from Matt Piscatella for Circana, it's now called, that also just has been doing very well. It's a very surprising thing. I think even Sony is very mindful of how it's like, wow, this sort of niche thing that I don't want to say slap together. Yeah,
we're expecting this.
I don't want to say slap together, but like it looks like that. Yeah,
it's like they just split it in half. I mean, the meme of it splitting out. Yeah. I mean, it's functional. Functionally, it works, right? You're like, okay, I get it. It's comfortable to hold. I don't take mine out of my house. I know you are driving around stealing Wi-Fi from McDonald's.
No, I just wanted to see if it would work. That's all I wanted to test.
You got to go the distance. Got to walk in, sit there front row with it.
The whole point of that video was, can I get past the handshake? I just want to get past the login screen. Obviously, it was going to run like ass if I was in the parking lot. So, with that in mind, it is interesting to see how well it's doing. And I'll always remind people of this, that we don't have numbers, right? So it's not like this thing is actually in the multi-millions, but still probably doing well enough to where it's like, oh, we didn't think it would do this number. So
do they even sell it? I don't think I've ever really seen it in stores. They even stock them in stores? Do they?
Yeah,
I haven't seen it yet at all. I haven't seen it in Target, Best Buy, or Walmart. I mean, I know sometimes. What's that?
They sell out.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I know for some of these places you have to actually go to the register and ask, because they don't put them out in glass anymore, and they have to go in the back and get them. But I haven't seen them out, I'll say, in any of these places, like even behind glass. So at least for me, anecdotally, it's not necessarily easy to get one here. I'd have to probably just go on Sony's website and buy it, or I guess Amazon. Are they stock on Amazon frequently?
I believe so.
Okay, so I mean, if that's the case and it's leading in terms of revenue for sales, that's the thing I really hope ultimately is that it sends the signal to Sony that there's a market still there for handheld Sony products. That's what if we have to go through this whole phase of PlayStation Portal being their quote unquote handheld, but in a few years they actually make a handheld, it'll feel worth it. I'll be like, okay, great, we got there.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly right. I mean it bodes well for consumer interest.
Yep.
So if there's really is that much demand for a portable experience, and the ceiling on the Portal is that it is a remote player, and Sony now has enough data that suggests, oh well, maybe if we can financially slap together, local PS4 hardware on the go, then maybe we'll
Are you sure you want that, Ryan?
Yes.
Are you 100% sure?
Why are you asking it like that?
Because the introduction of a handheld would just accelerate the digital growth.
I know that's the caveat, but I mean
It's over.
That's what it would have to be, though. It would have to be that.
Yeah,
They can't
do a game card. They can't do a UMD. Yo, what if they brought UMDs back? That'd be sick. A little UMD Blu-ray.
Fire up those factories again to print new UMDs. They have to be like ultra UMDs because they only hold like what 500 megabytes or something.
I feel like they held I thought they held over a gig, didn't they?
Oh, you know what? They might. I think they were like 1.2 or something. They might have been a gig.
It was something like that. It was something like that.
All right. So gig that can maybe hold version 1.02 for Ragnarok.
That is the caveat, though. If they bring that handheld back, that's their signal in the digital era is here.
No, the irony is not lost on me. If God forbid they ship a portable PS4, I actually can't fucking play it because I hardly have any digital games. So
you got PlayStation Plus Extra? You got Extra?
Sure. Okay, so I would have the game catalog, but like all this blue behind me, all that blue would be unplayable on a digital local play handheld.
Man.
I still think it would be super cool if you would, because I don't see how they could in my head that sounds like they could do this, where if you've got your account linked to this device, which means your account is always linked to any sort of assigned PlayStation hardware, your primary PS5, your primary PS4. It would be great if a console in rust mode with a disc inserted, if it could validate online and know that the disc is in, it would allow you to play the game on this portable system locally, because you can still install it locally. You just wouldn't have the disc acting as a license, because that's how we play games nowadays. They still copy the game from disc, but the disc after that acts as a license. So it would be interesting if they would, sort of makeshift that, where as long as you are connected online, a console in rust mode with the disc inserted could be your validator to then play it locally. So that's my pipe dream. That's what it makes sense in my head. I'm like, I don't see why they can't do that.
I like how intricate you're getting to save the physical games here.
That's how the Portal does it, though. I mean, in a way, you are beaming.
You're right. It does. It goes to it. Yeah.
You're beaming the screen, obviously, but with that in mind, it bodes well. I think, look, the company's got an R&D lab. They very clearly have a portable PlayStation that's being messed around with. We just don't know.
Oh, I'm sure they have it behind the scenes right now. And I think a lot of these companies right now, based on what's kind of being mentioned apparently at Gamescom, is that the handheld scene is hot currently. Everyone's excited for it. And it does kind of sound like AMD is making some moves right now behind the scenes with some of these chips. And I think Valve right now is very, very invested with AMD to create the next Steam Deck. And I think you're going to hear PlayStation and Microsoft also being right there with them. So I think AMD is coming up with a chip that's because before the Z1 Extreme that we have and things like the ROG Ally and stuff, it was made kind of as that low power graphical powerhouse for a handheld, but it wasn't really made for, this is obviously going in all these portable gaming systems. It's got to be efficient and meet that. Valve made a custom one for a reason, and Sony's going to make a custom one with them. Microsoft make a custom one with them. I think it's gonna be a really exciting time here soon for handhelds. That's fun.
It's it's still always important to clarify. It's not exactly a huge margin business. Like it's not like the Steam Deck has this 50 million install base. they've still like they're under like 10 million for that thing still.
They made the Steam Deck. I feel like they made the Steam Deck for fun, to be honest. It sounds crazy, but like honestly, Valve just makes money sitting there, and they're like, "Oh, what can we do? Let's make Deadlock. Let's make a handheld. Why not?" I mean, kind of in their mind was, if we can make the PC experience easy for people, maybe we'll just get more people for Steam. And if you get a Steam Deck, guess what? You just get directed to Steam immediately. So there was at least a business sense there when they made it. So. But
yeah, it's like a sort of Halo product, like extender in a way. You know, it's just meant for like very big hardcore enthusiasts. Because again, like if you look at like Steam Deck numbers, like that thing on paper is technically like not as established as PlayStation Vita was.
No.
Yeah. So because Vita has like a 15 million unit lifetime install base. So I mean, if we ever get a portable PlayStation, it would not exactly be this big, high-end margin business for Sony, but in theory, maybe one day we will see this like weird, bizarre $500 portable that is meant for, people that have that big digital library and want to safely play locally.
If we're at that, we believe we're getting close to that roof of just graphical fidelity. Hey, this is as good as they're going to look in terms of what you'll notice. I think we're getting close to that right now. Next generation, wouldn't it be more? I think it'd make more sense to have that convenience factor played in. And instead of the 2 SKU approach being a PS5 and a PS5 Pro, it's a PS6 and then it's also a handheld, and they play the same games. Just one, obviously not as well as the other. It's just more convenient. I kind of feel like that's going to be the big trend then going forward. Unless 8K breaks. Hey, if 8K breaks out, there you go, I guess. But look out.
That's an interesting thing you bring up. You can see this with PlayStation 5 in a way, which is the console, is by and large like, higher frame rates, higher res. You could see how Sony went about trying to make the thing feel next gen compared to PS4, with other avenues being more sensory experiences. That's why they invested heavily into 3D audio or the haptics, the triggers, right? These sort of other avenues that make the console feel next gen compared to PS4, since we are in the diminishing returns landscape. So I would almost venture a guess and say PlayStation 6 is going to have a lot of key principles that explore more of those avenues, instead of like just obviously raw horsepower, which there's just not much. I don't want to say there's not much further we can go, but the sort of big leaps are just not there anymore. That, and there's a ceiling on how many publishers can even afford to make games that look that nuts to begin with. That's why the portables are so popular now. It's like 99% of your library can run on a Steam Deck, because it's not these games don't, they're not cyberpunk, right? It's
right.
Most of it's playable on a handheld. So
apparently Black Myth Wukong works on, someone said it worked on the Steam Deck. I was like, really?
Does it look good?
It's interesting. I don't have it on. Again, if I go back in time, I would buy it on the PC now. Although they do have like a benchmark program that you just can download and try. Maybe I'll do that. I will tell you what does not run well: Final Fantasy 16. That thing struggles. My Steam Deck was like, "What is going on?" It was like just all over the place. No, they gotta figure out like the drivers and Proton update and stuff, which they probably will. Valve will with Square Enix. But that, I'm gonna tell you right now, next generation, whenever we get there years from now, that is going to be such an interesting time in gaming to see what happens. Because I do think, as you're mentioning, the big power narrative to introduce next gen, I kind of feel like that's gone. I think it's done. But introduce next generation with, look how much better this looks. I just don't know if that sells it anymore. Got to get creative.
I'll call it right now. I mean, I'm already like just tired of the bitching we see nowadays with PlayStation 5. It's going to be the same thing, but worse. Like, oh, now we finally have 4K 60, right? Like that's what it's going to be. Like, come on. So I would almost expect it's going to be a lot of more sensory experiences.
Okay.
How about this, John? X going to give it to you.
Oh, okay, good. What do we got?
X going to give it to you. Now, this is more well-known, but I feel like we had to talk about it, which is PT turns 10 years old. We crossed over the 10-year mark. 10 years for the playable teaser for Silent Hills, which, I think a lot of people know what PT is, but I always find it's important to highlight how it was announced, which was the really, really cool thing, right? Because this was Gamescom 2014 during Sony's press event, where they used to do press events at Gamescom. and they showed off this teaser from 989 Studios, a studio that doesn't exist, wasn't real. Showed off this trailer of a brown paper bag talking and showing off gamer reactions, real reactions, and people freaking out, right? And then it just shadow drops on PSN. People download it, they go through the hallway, they don't know what the hell is going on. It's so weird. It is genuinely very creepy and it looks unbelievable. It's the kind of game where it's like an Order 1886, where it's like that base PS4 software still looks phenomenal today.
It does.
And yeah, to unlock the ending, which was a really bizarre thing like the internet was going crazy trying to figure out exactly how to unlock the last sequence that then opens up the playable or the teaser for what is a new Silent Hill game from Konami being directed by Hideo Kojima. This entire thing was just batshit crazy at the time. Just absolutely insane.
It was awesome. Let's be real. It was an incredible time in gaming. Those are the things I love to see though. And that but this is the thing with Kojima, because of these kind of, I don't want to say rare events, because it's just not common in gaming. So many of those rare events are linked to him, whether it's Metal Gear or this. It's just anytime he does something, we just believe it's happening again every time. And then he's like, no, guys, I'm telling you, no, Death Stranding, you're really just delivering packages. It's like, all right, Kojima, I'll see you day one. I got you. I got you. Don't worry. And then you're like, wait, I'm just delivering packages. What is this?
But you still got the crazy story.
That's true. PT though, legendary status when that came out. That was nuts. You're right, because I think that was one of the first times I really saw like forums in almost in real time, like updating as people were like going back and forth. Like, oh, I think you look at the clock, maybe. I think that's something. And like they're trying to go through and figure it out. Like, why is this refrigerator hanging? What is this? Why is what? And then the person grabbed them and like spun you around and like was in your face. And dude, that was a really good time in gaming right there.
Yeah. That's why I want to talk about it, because just to recapture the moment of it when it came out. It was also like the kind of Until Dawn thing where it's like it blew up on like Twitter and Twitch or at YouTube, I should say, like Let's Players and having those videos pop up, like Game Grumps going through it and the React channel putting it up and those videos going super viral, because it was like a genuinely super scary. It was one of the scariest things that came out, up until that point, like in terms of like sound design as well. You play it with headphones, it's genuinely like a very uneasy experience. It was just so fascinating, dude.
You get to the end of that, zooms out, Norman Reedus. You find out you've been playing as Norman Reedus the whole time.
Yeah.
And it was, and zoomed out, boom, Silent Hills. Like, whoa, I played basically an interactive trailer, right? Like, okay, this sets me up. Because if you would just watch that as a trailer, you probably would have they probably would have had you walk down, maybe try to do a jump scare to you, walk down the hallway, walked out, and then it would have zoomed out and it'd have been like a minute thing for a trailer. That is an interesting way to present a game, making it that playable and that mysterious. But here's what I'm curious about. It's how long is PT? If you don't know what's going on, how long do you think it would have taken most people?
If you don't know what's going on, I mean, no doubt you play it for maybe 20 to 30 minutes and then you stop because you can't keep going, because you actually can't figure it out. That's the thing. Like if you need instructions on how to like unlock the ending. That's how obtuse it is.
I almost wonder if people would have, like, if that was just like a little experience, if people would have paid $10 for it.
Yeah, probably.
I almost wonder if we could have a game like that released from Kojima, if he just makes it very mysterious and just drops it randomly. And it's like, it's $20. It's like the price to go out to the movies and it's an hour long. I wonder if people would be okay with that if it was that level, where it was like, I've never seen this before. What is this?
That's such a tough question to ask, because it probably would still generate a lot of like complaints of, oh, it was only an hour and I spent $20 on it. So
it absolutely would, but I'm curious if it would get the sales and if some people would be like, no, you know what, that was fun. That was cool. It was different. I don't know. It does bring back the question of how valuable is something, and it has to boil down to the length of time that you played it, or if you can have a very concise or just really satisfying experience from an hour of gameplay.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's interesting. But you're right. That was such a memorable moment in gaming that I don't know if we ever get something like that again.
God, I hope we do. That's what, it's just so cool, man. Of course, it was the whole Kojima. Oh, I made up a studio. Like, oh yeah,
Yeah,
big
that's why we never believe him when he says stuff to us.
big surprise. Yeah, like 989 Studios. I'm trying to remember if they made a fake website. I don't. Either they did, and it was like total bullshit, or people could not find this studio at all. So it was kind of obvious at that point. But it was still a matter of how obtuse it was to like unlock the ending, which actually did get opened up like either like day of or like the following day. It was some Twitch streamer. I forget who they were, but they
People
just
figured
like,
it out.
yeah, they like inadvertently got it opened. And that was like just a crazy thing because they didn't say it was Norman Reedus or that it was Silent Hill. So
I see a PS4 here with the PT demo installed. Looks like it's a basic old school PS4 with the glossy side panel. $425.
yeah, because well, I guess we should mention that, which is well, we all know the game got canceled. And Konami got very aggressive with making sure you are never allowed to enjoy PT ever again, you vile swine. They took it down from PSN, made it so that you can't re-download it anymore, even if you have the license. Now there is a workaround still in modern times, but that workaround still only works if you had the license on your account. So if you never downloaded it at the time, you cannot get the game back. So there's that. And then we have PlayStation 5 come out. Day one, backwards compatibility, works with damn near every PlayStation 4 game out there, barring, a few hundred that have problems, and then like 10 games that straight up don't work. But PT, yeah, perfectly playable. Until Konami came knocking and said, oh, no, no, no. So they
what they should have done?
Game.
Ready for this one? It's a pack-in Easter egg on Silent Hill 2.
So then,
boom, 5 million copies day one.
Dude, that'd be
welcome, Konami.
That'd be so fucked up if they like monetized it again by charging for it with Silent Hill 2.
Hey, they're out here to make money.
That'd be so dirty. I feel like they're not even allowed to do anything with it technically because
they probably aren't.
Yeah, it had Norman Reedus's likeness in it, unless they take that out. Yeah.
But that'd be crazy.
I mean, it's just another little quick, recap here for those that didn't know about this, but that was, Kojima's big falling out with Konami. That was a really big deal at the time, highly publicized. That's when he then went off and formed Kojima Productions, his own standalone studio. And then we saw an early partnership being announced between him and Andrew House. And that's what we had with Death Stranding. So definitely a big thing for PlayStation history. PT was wild, man.
Yeah, it was pretty much when he got Metal Gear Solid 5 that came out. There was a whole falling out, and it got so bad that they were basically erasing anything Kojima, which included PT. It was gone off of Konami's site, everything. So it's crazy stuff back then. But that was a moment in time. These are the moments that I kind of feel bad if people weren't necessarily as aware or into gaming then, and it's like you have to explain it to them because it's never going to hit the same way it did when it happened. Like, it's impossible.
It's hard to convey how cool and mysterious it was, and just reflecting on how it all played out, especially because like that is what's so upsetting, is not having access to PT anymore, because it is still, even though we never got Silent Hills, it's still just on its own like really cool, like something people should experience if you never did.
Yeah, it was a genuinely unique experience that, like, again, within in an industry now where people complain about stuff being very samey, that really stuck out.
Yeah. Well, I think that's about wraps up Click Hour 3. We knocked out a number of good stories here, John.
2 hours 17 minutes right now. It's a pretty good episode. It's a lengthy episode.
Nice, meaty, delicious.
And I said next time we record, we're gonna be talking about Astrobot.
Yes, we are that close.
That's cool, right? I'll have the controller, and I guess the game will come in too. But we'll have all that, right? We'll spend time, I'm sure, during that weekend playing it. I'll be playing it quite a bit, and I'm excited. I'll be curious about to see because I'm not going to look up any of the cameos or anything. I'm just going to play through it and see what I find. I'm gonna be curious if we come up with different cameos that we found, and like if one of us missed one or the other one found something different. That'll be cool just to see. But I'm I'm excited for that. That's gonna be awesome. So Astrobot coming up. Yeah. Oh, did you you didn't unlock all the Astro characters yet, right? You're waiting. I can hear you. Wow, he's saying a lot right now with the mute on. Something else.
These are old AirPods, and they die very quickly.
I was just saying, you didn't get the. You're waiting for the Astro characters come out, like all 4 of them.
The last character, I'll go and save them.
That should be soon. That should be this week coming up, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
That's yeah. Okay, cool. Good stuff. All right, I'll get it too. All right, awesome. I did get the Gran Turismo one. That's done. So I'm ready. I'm ready for Ratchet, and then we call it a day. So, all right. Thanks everyone for.
That's Ape Escape. It would be.
What's that?
The last one. The last one's
Ape Escape. Okay, cool. Ape Escape. All right. So we got all 4 of them then, and then I don't know if something special happens for it, and they're like, they basically tell you to buy the game constantly when you walk down to the to the things. So it's fine. But I mean, I'm already in for it, so we're good. But exciting stuff. Cool. I guess that is going to do it. Hey, and you know what? Maybe we'll get lucky and we put this out on Monday or Tuesday, and the PlayStation Showcase gets announced on Monday or Tuesday.
That would happen. Let's be honest here.
But they heard it here first. So there you go. Thanks everyone for PlayStation Showcase coming up.
It's coming up.
Just in case. Thanks everyone for tuning in to Click R3. We'll be back in a couple of weeks to talk about Astrobot and hopefully some kind of PlayStation Showcase. But I guess we'll see. See you guys then.